All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Okay, share this out, share this out, share this out. It's Friday night, Law of One, right? Friday night. Let me turn off the overlay here so you guys can see me and put myself up into full screen here, solo screen, because there's nothing to see on the overlay from Law of One. Okay, let me turn back so I can see the comments. Rick, welcome. Denise, welcome. Anybody else that's out there? I can see numbers, but I don't see any names. So if I don't see you say hello in the chat, then I don't know you're here. We are live on Twitter. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. So share this out, share this out, share this out. And we'll get into the Law of One. We're on session 43, I believe. Yeah, session 43 this week. So last week we were talking about ascension, chakras, and in all that entails. I don't think they got too much into. They're going to, of course, move. They always do move into new topics, right? Cody, welcome. Reese, welcome. Like I said, if you don't say hello, I don't know you're there. I just see numbers. Okay, so like I said, share this out. So I hope you guys are doing well. It's officially spring now, right? And I don't remember what day that was that spring started officially, just a day or two ago, a few days ago, not too long ago. So it's officially spring in the northern hemispheres, which means it's fall for those of you in Australia, officially fall, right? You're going into autumn now. So welcome. I think we'll get right into the Law of One. I don't have a lot of stuff to go crazy over. A lot of times I have a lot of things to go crazy over. I think we're going into full moon, right? I haven't checked any of that. I've been really busy. Life has been a little crazy and busy for me in the last week. So I haven't really done a lot of crazy. I haven't even been online to talk to you guys. And I've posted reels, shorts, whatever you want to call them, every night before I go to sleep. But that's about it. I haven't really done much online or talked to anybody this past week. It's been kind of crazy. I've been really busy with just dealing with life, right? Okay, so I'm going to do a sound check. Like I said, share this out. I shared it it's on Orion Rising. I shared it to my page on Facebook, and I also shared it to Returning to the Old Ways on Facebook. So please share this out. If you're on YouTube, share it out to people as well. Those of you listening to the MP3 broadcast around the world, you guys can't say anything. And those of you on Twitter, for some reason, I can't read the chat in here either. So if you guys are on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, or Cassie, welcome. Or if you're on the MP3 broadcast all over the planet, I won't be able to answer your questions, but you guys can get a hold of me. There is a link, whatever app you're on, there is a link to get a hold of me and ask questions. If you guys have questions, I do talk to people and work with people behind the scenes, right? Okay, so yeah, right. So I'll try to remember to put my glasses on and check every now and then. I'll look down and see if there's something that, because you guys ask questions, and a lot of times during the discussions, I don't see that. I'm going to have to get somebody to help me when I do this, just like psychics do, where they have somebody to work with them so that someone can monitor the questions. It's getting to the point where I'm going to start having to do that. Once my book comes out, I'll more than likely be on other people's podcasts, so I won't have to worry about that, because it'll be their responsibility or their producer's responsibility to worry about questions, right? So I'm glad that you guys are doing well in life as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Raw and do a sound check and let me know if you guys can hear it okay. Otherwise, I can always turn it up or down. And then we'll just get right into it. Session 43. You'll hear that as we go here.
March 24th, 1981. 43.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Before we communicate, may we request the adjustment, without the touching of this instrument's physical body complex, of the item which presses upon the instrument's head. This is causing some interference with our contact. 43.1 Questioner, is that the pillow or something else? Do you speak of the pillow under the neck? Ra, I am Ra. There is a line of interference crossing the crown of the head. 43.2 Questioner, is it this? A 2-inch fold in the sheet is located 3 inches from the crown of the instrument's head and is laid flat on the bed. Is that it? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Please.
So literally, Did you hear that? Literally a crease from a fold from the sheet that was folded up prior to being on the bed, and they unfolded it and tucked it in. A fold in the sheet was disrupting the communication from Raw, communicating telepathically with Carla. Isn't that crazy? They had other things happen too, where candle was in the wrong place. Smoke from the incense was moving in a direction that was causing a problem, and they had to shift that. They did the same thing with the candle. They shifted the positioning. So small minor things that most people would never even think of can change whether or not you can actually telepathically communicate with other people. And I bring this up because one of the things that Raw talks about at some point, I don't remember what session that it was in, but it was covered by Raw that your hair length is actually important. I can't grow a lot of hair on my head. As you can see, I'm pretty much bald on the top. I got the horseshoe. I can grow it long in the back, but I'm not one of those people that wants to have like just the horseshoe haircut and then have it long and then have this big bald spot on top of my head, or hide it by putting on a hat and make people think I have long hair until I take my hat off and I'm bald. So I grow my beard long, but that's a Jedi thing too. A lot of Jedi masters, if you even watch the movies, but if you read the books, a lot of Jedi Knights and Jedi Masters do that. Now, I wanted to address that. That's why I got into this right here, because throughout history, you have the beard of wisdom, right? You see that these learned magi, whatever you want to call them, from around the world throughout all of time, including Jesus, had a full beard. They grow long beards, and that has been the show of age and wisdom. Gray hair for men and women, long hair on women, even long hair on men, but that took a function for men in combat, that if you wore long hair, it would actually protect, and it did somewhat protect a barrier around your neck. And then if you wore something over the top of it, like, chainmail or whatever, it would also stop someone from killing you because it acted like a type of armor. So a lot of the warriors, knights and things like that, they always had long hair and beards, not because they were, one, it was a sign of, I'm a man, I can grow a beard. But with the long hair and all of that, had more to do with protection from elements and from swords and knives and things like that from penetrating and killing someone. So it aided. It also helped when you were wearing mail and things like that from it chafing your body. So a lot of times they started wearing cloth on top of their hair to pad it from the actual chainmail and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. However, if you look throughout time, and even instinctively, when you look at like Gandalf and people writing books, always the learned ones are the women with long hair and men with long beards, and if they can, long hair as well. And this was the sign of wisdom throughout all of the ages. If you look at the Egyptians, even when there was a female as pharaoh, she would put on a fake beard of wisdom and wear that to show that she was wise. And no one would say, oh, a woman can't grow a beard, because she was in fact a pharaoh. So it was like a ceremonial headdress that they would wear. Now, I bring this up because in the modern day, if you look up people with beards and mustaches today, the secularists of the world who are trying to convince you, that there is nothing and don't be anything, the very first thing they do when they get a hold of you in the 20th century and now in the 21st century, if you join the military, they shave you all of your hair off your head and face. And they don't allow you to wear hair on your head and face. Why is that? Because if they take all the hair off of your head, then it literally shortens and stifles you from spiritual practices. That's why today in all of politics and everything they say, including in religion now, that people who have a beard and mustache, that you people, all of us around the world, see that as they're untrustworthy and that they're lying to you. That's what they're telling you. Okay. And so they tell you that because they're trying to convince you of that. However, if you look at the universe, this entire planet, throughout every bit of existence, all of the wisest people, all the way up until 1939, had beards and long hair. Okay. All the way through the Civil War, through the, in the United States Civil War, through the First World War, everyone had long hair and beards. Women had long hair. So now they're trying to get women to cut their hair off and men to do the same. So in business, they want you to be clean shaven as much as possible. Why? Because they can control you and you're easier to control. Okay. And people are aware of this around the world and have been forever. And here's the thing, they, and I say they meaning the secularists, those people who are in service to self and subscribe to that religion, their own Anunnaki. Let me repeat that. Their own Anunnaki, their people, even the Luciferians, their people that they actually worship as the knowledge bringers and the quote unquote people who created the human race. The Anunnaki, every statue around the world of the Anunnaki depicted or a drawing has every single Anunnaki with a full mustache and beard and the long beard of wisdom. Satan, even in the Baphomet guise of the horned creature, has a beard and a beard of wisdom. Okay, so even their deities, they claim that anyone who has a beard and mustache is untrustworthy and is lying to you. The people that they're basing and follow as their actual religion, all of them 100% have a long hair and a beard. All of them. Okay, so what they're saying to you is a lie. And why? Because they don't want you having any communication or ability. The longer your hair is, and this is why in most of the Bibles, it says, don't cut the hair at the side of your head. The Muslims and the Hasidic Jews are very adamant about that, and they do not cut their hair. They have long hair. Native Americans, all natives of North and South America, and mostly, unless they're in a modern city and have been brainwashed by society, have long hair. Natives can't grow a beard and mustache very well, and even the Asians. Look at all of the Asians. So look at every culture on this earth, and prior to 1938, around the world, everyone had long hair and a full beard until they decided that the Renaissance happened, right? And then we're going forward, they were trying to control people and they needed to clamp down control. And you had all of these societies that were starting to look into spirituality. And then they cut everybody off and cut everybody's hair and forced everybody to be the same and be like a robot with no hair. And then they convinced everyone, and they still do in the industry, you have to look clean shaven to be here. And then of course you do that, and that stifles your third eye, stifles your spirituality. It slows down, keeps you in your lizard brain. So just the act of making you shave every day and be clean shaven and mandating that in the work environment was keeping that in men in line. And it was harder for women because women grew long hair. But they can every now and then get you guys used to the idea of short hair, but women resist that and start growing long hair. But now what they're doing is they've invented this new thing that is the extensions. You can have short hair and then clip the extensions on and look like you have long hair and not have to worry about. And that's what 90% of all the women in Hollywood are doing today. They don't really have that beautiful flowing hair. Jennifer, or what's her name? Kelly Clarkson, literally yesterday, she has long hair and I thought, wow, she's growing her hair long. Nope. She was just yesterday or the day before, somewhere during this week, she was talking to somebody and said, no, these are extensions. These just clip in. And he's like, that's not your real hair. She's like, nope, not at all. So all of them, 90% of all actresses have short hair so they can be controlled, and they've sold them on the idea that you don't have to have long hair because that's just too much for you to take care of, and it's so much easier, instead of worrying about your hair, just to clip this stuff in and it looks like you have long hair. When you get home, like a bra, you can take it all off. So they get home and they're taking out all their prosthetics and they're pulling off their hair and they're taking off their nails and pulling out their teeth and taking out their eyeballs, and so now they have different color eyes. It's scary because you don't know what you're getting anymore, because these people are wearing wigs and hair implants and contacts and all this stuff. Men are starting to do the same thing. So when you meet somebody for the first time, you got to wonder, is this actually who I'm dating? Or when I get them home, are they going to take everything off and they're going to be one-legged and have no teeth and you know what I mean? And be bald and missing hair on one side of their head. And who knows? You have no idea until because of how fake the world is. And all of that is being done so that you guys out there just completely are shut down, and you have no way of communicating in a spiritual way with anything other than this place. And that is why they do that. So I have always grown a beard. When I had hair, I could grow. I had it long just 6 years ago. If you look at pictures of me on Facebook, you'll see I had long hair. And then I started growing the beard as I started getting thinner on the top, like I am now. On the top, I started growing the beard back, and I've been always with a beard. In fact, I shaved my face off once in the last 10 years, took pictures. That's also on Facebook. Took pictures of it, and people were like, oh my, look at that baby face, right? But then I grew back when I shaved off my beard right at Christmas, because my ego told me that. I regretted it. And even Peter Coyle from Ireland, who I didn't see in the crowd here. Anna, welcome, by the way. He even said, what are you doing? Where's your beard? And so I grew it back. Those who are in the spiritual community, you'll find, have long hair because they are communicating. Look at the Long Island psychic, Long Island medium. She's got like a 4-foot bouffant hairdo nowadays. It's almost 4 feet tall. It's huge. It's this big, huge beehive bouffant hairdo, which when I saw her, I was like, wow, it's 4 times the size of her head now. She almost looks like a clown or something. But you know what? She's a really good psychic. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now that I cut it off right there in that thing. But yeah, I mean, women always, they'll have long hair and then they're like, I need to change. They, say they break up with their boyfriend. They go and cut all their hair off. Every time you go to a hairdresser, they want, oh, we need to give you a trim, and they take off like 7-8 inches of your hair. Those people make money by cutting your hair. So they literally aren't going to make money by going, well, we'll just take off a fraction of an inch of your hair. We'll take off just the split ends that are here. Nope. They always take 6 to 8 inches off. Why? Their job depends on them changing the style of your hair so drastically and then doing it and making you look pretty. It's like a makeup artist. They're not going to have you sit down and spend 10 minutes putting on makeup like you would do, or 20 minutes like you would do at your house before you go out, and maybe a half an hour. They have you sit in a chair for like 5 hours. What is it that they could possibly need to be doing that takes 5 hours to put makeup on? It takes you less than 20 minutes, probably 10 minutes to get it off, unless you have to chisel at it with a jackhammer or something because of all the layers they put on. However, when you look at these women in Hollywood who are plain and not very attractive without their makeup, I'm not saying all of them. Some of them are very beautiful. But you get it. It's a catch-22. They get you in wearing the makeup, and the makeup does damage to your face. Then you have to do all this other stuff to try and fix your face. And the more you use makeup, the more that it damages your face, and the more you get lines and wrinkles, and the older you look. So it's a catch-22, and you're addicted to it like a drug. You have to wear the makeup so that you don't look old. And then they sell you. I was just watching. I don't know who it was. One of the Kardashians. She just turned 60, so it's probably Kim, right? The oldest one. And she literally just said that in the industry, like acting or whatever, because they asked her, would you ever do Housewives again? And she said, absolutely not. She said, my daughter, one of her daughters is in her 20s now, the youngest one. And she's like, I would never want to go back to my 20s because it's just horrifying to be in your 20s as a woman in the world. And even as bad as it was where I was, it's just as bad now or worse. And she said that when you turn 40, you don't have a job. There's hardly any acting jobs for you. So they're driven, is my point. They're driven by the nature of the beast in Hollywood to look like and act like they're in their 20s, when all the way until you cannot pass for anything besides a grandmother. Men do the same thing. I see these guys that are obviously in their 50s and 60s, and they're dyeing their hair and they're clean shaven because they don't want to have a beard, or if they do, it's obvious to me because I have problems with colors. So when I see dyed hair, I pretty much catch it really quickly. It doesn't look natural, and I see colors that you guys don't see. And it's only when they're off and at home that they don't dye all that crap until they or go to get a job, and then they're all putting all this makeup on to make them look like they're in their 20s and they're in their 60s. It's horrible that is the way it is. And the jobs that you don't get an action job as a cool guy or chick unless you look like you're 20, and if you gain a half of an ounce, they want to fire you. All of that, my point here, all of that is being done on purpose, superficially, to keep you and everyone else stuck in this matrix here in the now and going for clicks, likes, power, money, fame, all of that. So all of what they're teaching you is the opposite. Up is down, down is up. So they're teaching you that clean shavenness and short hair is trustworthy people, when the truth is that even their deities for their religion has long hair and beards instead of short hair. So there is no example of no hair anywhere in history for wise men and women. There is no example of that. Find me one. Everyone in history, if you see pictures of it, unless they were like bald, Mahatma Gandhi, right? He didn't have any hair, and he did every now and then. He had a little bit of a mustache and a little bit of a goatee. But he didn't, even Lao Tzu at 634 BCE, he grew his eyebrows to where they were coming down. That was the thing to do back then in China, was to let your eyebrows grow. And they, my like peacock eyebrows, if I grew mine and just didn't trim them, they would grow up like this. And if you guys have ever seen any older Irish or Celtic guys, you know what we're talking about. The Chinese did that, and they would part it around their face. So there's a picture that I just put out on a reel of Lao Tzu, but it was a drawing, but it's a rendering of what he looked like. And his eyebrows come out and go down his face. And then he's got the Fu Manchu and the long beard. That's what they did. Even though they didn't have a lot of hair, they grew it long. Okay. So I'm putting on my glasses as I see you guys are talking in the audience. And so it looks like you're talking amongst yourselves, not asking me questions. So that's what happens. You guys all start talking to yourselves, and then I start doing the show, and I take off my glasses and I don't look. And then all of a sudden you guys are asking me questions, and I'm unaware of that because I'm assuming you guys are just talking to yourselves, because that's what you do in the beginning of the show. Okay, let's continue with the beginning of Raw. But you need to be aware of these things. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. So don't believe a word I've said. Assume that I'm lying to you and I've made this up, and go look in history in every religion and every walk of life prior to 1938 on this planet, and find me someone who is very wise, even the Buddha, because what you see as the Buddha is not what that man looked like. That man was a prince. He wasn't a 400-pound bald fat guy that walked around half naked and wore just a loincloth. That's just the way they depicted him in nature. And there's a reason for that you should look up too. It has nothing to do with the person was actually a fat, bald person. That's actually a depiction for a reason in that spiritual way. Okay, let's continue.
Increase the distance from the crown of the head. 43.3 Questioner. Ruffles in the sheet are smoothed all along the length of the sheet next to the instrument's head. Is that satisfactory? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. 43.4 Questioner. I am sorry that we failed to notice that. Ra. We communicate now. 43.5 Questioner. I'll just try to pick up the last question left over from the last session. If you can answer it, I don't know if it is of any importance, but it just occurred to me that the parts removed in cattle mutilations are the same every time, and I just wondered if this was related to the energy centers and why they were important if that was so. Ra. I am Ra. This is basically correct if you may understand that there is a link between energy centers and various thought forms. Thus the fears of the mass consciousness create the climate for the concentration upon the removal of bodily parts which symbolize areas of concern or fear in the mass consciousness. 43.6 Questioner. Are you saying, then, that these parts that are removed are related to the mass consciousness of the third density human form on the planet, and this sphere is being used in some way by the second density entities, or, correction, the thought form entities that do the mutilations? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct as latterly stated. The thought form entities feed upon fear, thus they are able to do precise damage according to systems of symbology. The other second density types of which you speak need the, what you call, blood. 43.7 Questioner. These other second density types need the blood to remain in the physical? Do they come in and out of our physical density from one of the astral planes? Ra. I am Ra. These entities are, shall we say, creatures of the Orion group. They do not exist in astral planes as do the thought forms, but wait within the Earth's surface. We, as always, remind you that it is our impression that this type of information is unimportant. 43.8 Questioner.
Okay, so literally they're talking about third dimensional beings that are here on the Earth, but they're not up on the surface. They're under the surface of the planet. So I'm sitting here and I have the television on. I wanted to mention while I stopped right here that William Shatner is on the Kelly Clarkson show. He turned 91. This was filmed a few days ago, but it was airing today. So either it is William Shatner's birthday today or it was a couple of days ago when they filmed it. 91 years old. I happened to see a commercial and he said something about being 91. I didn't realize that the episode was going to be about his birthday. They just brought out a big long pizza that was like 20 feet long with a bunch of candles, and it took him and Kelly Clarkson to blow the candles out because William Shatner is 91 years of age. What? I hope I make it to be 91. Okay, so literally they're talking about, and Raw just dismisses it as not consequential. It's inconsequential, and let's just move on. By the way, there's entities in the earth that suck your energy and also dine on human blood. Vampires. Do you understand that? That they're right. So, but when he says, and he conjures up second dimensional beings, most people are like, oh, leeches. That's all that is. They're just leeches and they're underground. Okay. Or bats. But he said they're of the Orion group. So they're not indigenous to the earth. That means they're not leeches or bats or something else that would suck your blood. They're something that physically came here from a different planet with a group of people who were trying to conquer this planet, and did conquer this planet and 22 other planets in this sector of the universe. Not in this solar system, but in this sector of the universe. Out of all 23 solar systems that were under their control, as of a few years ago, there was only 2 left that are no longer, that are not, or that are still in their control. This planet is not one of them anymore. This planet is in the mop-up stage, but the insane asylum is being run by the inmates now, and that has been for a while. So everybody still wants to say, oh no, there's this group of people that are out there that are evil and that took control, and they're the last vestiges of the Orion Crusaders were still around in 1948, and that's why I did the 28 weeks of the interview between the CIA and this Errol, this alien that doesn't exist, that didn't crash in Roswell, that they didn't find, that they didn't talk to for 3 to 6 months, that didn't happen because all of that was fake. Yet the CIA has all of this information and conducted these interviews with a person who was in fact telepathically able to communicate with said non-alien entity calling herself Errol, who then talked about being here as the controllers and owners of this slave planet that is known as Earth. Okay, let's continue here. So literally, Roz just stated it just off the cuff. By the way, there's entities that suck your energy and some that suck your blood and dine off human blood, but they're second dimensional beings. Oh, by the way, they came here with the Orion Crusaders. Let's move on.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I sometimes am at a loss, before investigation into an area, to know whether it is going to lead to a better understanding. This just seemed to be related somehow to the energy centers that we were speaking of. I am going to make a statement and have you comment on it for its correctness. The statement is, when the creator's light is split or divided into colors and energy centers for experience, then in order to reunite with the creator, the energy centers must be balanced exactly the same as the split light was as it originated from the creator. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. To give this query a simple answer would be nearly impossible. We shall simplify by concentrating upon what we consider to be the central idea towards which you are striving. We have, many times now, spoken about the relative importance of balancing as opposed to the relative unimportance of maximal activation of each energy center.
Welcome, Joanne. Welcome aboard. Welcome to Friday, the Law of One.
The reason is as you have correctly surmised. Thusly the entity is concerned, if it be upon the path of positive Hive stability, with the regularizing of the various energies of experience. Thus the most fragile entity may be more balanced than one with extreme energy and activity in service to others due to the...
Cody, did I say hello to you? I did not. Welcome, Cody. You've been talking for like 5 minutes and I didn't say hello. I apologize. If you guys are out there and you don't say anything in the chat, then I don't know you're here. I just see numbers. And those of you who did say something and I didn't say hello, I apologize because I'm, running around trying to get everything going here. So I apologize. But yeah, I just realized I'm like, Cody, I don't remember saying your name. Hi.
fastidiousness with which the will is focused upon the use of experience in knowing the self. The densities beyond your own give the minimally balanced individual much time/space and space/time with which to continue to refine these inner balances. 43.9 Questioner, in the next density, or in the fourth density, is the catalyst of physical pain used as a mechanism for experiential balancing? Ra.
Hi, Penny. Welcome. So again, quickly, Dawn moved back to balancing the chakras. And so there's nothing wrong with that. But you can tell, I can at least, that Dawn, being an American and a physicist, really didn't know much about Eastern philosophical thought, unless he was just being a scientist and trying to get, a guidance to make sure that what we're doing down here is proper. I guess it might be because I've been teaching that for so long that to me, I'm like, why is he wasting so much time on this? And I thought, go back to 1984. Well, I already knew about it back then as well. And so I have to assume that Dawn doesn't know much about that. So the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people say, well, all of this was just made up by Carla and it's none of it is real. And it's all just in Carla's head. Well, if that's the case, then Carla, who was married to Dawn, would have been able to probably articulate this information to Dawn. Some people would try to say, well, they're just trying to introduce that stuff to America back then, which it wasn't as widely known in this country 40 years ago, the way it is now, correct. But there was a good portion of those of us who were spiritual that knew that. It just wasn't mainstream to the rest of the world. Still isn't, though. Still isn't mainstream to, it's not like 40 years forward from when Carla was saying this, that everyone in the United States knows about it now, or that it's more than 50% or 75% compared to back then. It's only maybe 3 or 4% more people 40 years later. So that's another reason why I allow it. And I talk about it a lot myself, because it's actually still being introduced to the Western philosophical thought or religious spiritual thought because of Western Judeo-Christianity or all of the religions around the world that have been corrupted by the secularists to dumb it down to where no one knows anything about anything.
I am Ra. The use of physical pain is minimal, having only to do with the end of the fourth density incarnation. This physical pain would not be considered severe enough to treat, shall we say, in third density.
No, Penny, not the prince, but the princess. Just like Peter Coyle has been predicting for quite a while. Peter Coyle has talked about this last year, that she was going to, first when he said that the queen was going to die and that her consort was going to die, he gave that timeline. Then he has stated that the king is going to bow out because of health reasons due to cancer, and that the princess is also going to bow out due to health scare, and that has to do with cancer Peter Coyle, I wish he was here. He's been saying this for since the coronation of the king, that this was going to happen. So for her to come out today and say that she has cancer, I was like, Peter Coyle said this 2 years ago, that this was going to happen. Said it again a year ago, said it again 4 months ago. When she has started having health problems back in December, October, November, December, he said it then. Same thing with the current king. So you guys should talk to Peter. You should listen to Peter a little more often when he's in the chat and he's making these predictions, and people just like bypass what he says. I guess you guys do the same thing to me. So you guys just like, and then all of a sudden, what? The prince? No, it's not the prince, it's the princess. She just went and had surgery, and she came out today. I watched it when they played it a little while ago, about 2 hours ago. They played it. It was probably on before that, but I wasn't paying attention to television. Just before the show, when I was prepping for the show, I saw it and saw her sitting there talking and saying she had surgery. And when they removed stuff, which means they were going in on purpose, that she didn't say that, but you don't go and have them do surgery and then say they found that there was cancer present when they did the surgery. Then that means there was elective surgery and they went in looking for it. And then they tested it, did a biopsy, and then said that there's cancer. So now she's undergoing chemotherapy. So it's very serious. If they're doing chemotherapies, then it's actually very serious. And it is possible that that she could die from it. So it's not like, they found a little teeny tumor and they found something that turned out to be a tumor, and now they have to do chemo on her. So it's very serious. Peter said that was what was going to happen. So if you listen to what Peter Coyle said, the king is going to step down. He's having problems with prostate cancer. He's going to step down, and her husband will become king at whatever age he is. I don't think he's older than me. He might be, but I think he's younger than me. So he's in his either mid to late 40s or early 50s. I think he's in his since they just have kids, he might actually be in his 30s, right? Mid to late 30s. So we might end up with a very young king being put into place in the next couple of years. I don't remember exactly what the dates were that Peter said. I wish he was on here. If he shows up, we'll ask him. All right, let's continue.
The catalysts of mental and spiritual pain are used in fourth density. 43.10 Questioner: why is physical pain a part of the end of fourth density? Ra, I am Ra. You would call this variety of pain weariness. 43.11 Questioner: what is the, can you even state the average lifespan in the fourth density of space/time incarnation? Ra, I am Ra. The space/time incarnation typical of harmonious fourth density is approximately 90,000 of your years as you measure time. 43.12 Question.
He's giving an average right there because it depends on the ecosystem where people are at, just like here as well. The ecosystem, there was a time when people used to live to be 1,000 years old. However, I don't want to pass by without any kind of fanfare in the fourth density. So when everyone says we're moving right into the fifth dimension and we're bypassing the fourth, you're talking about a dimension of the third dimension. Okay, you're talking about a level of the third dimension. Because if we are in fact moving into the fourth dimension, the average life expectancy in years on this earth, the way we are, 364 and a quarter days for one rotation around the sun being 1 year, the average lifespan of a person that is in fourth dimension in reality is 90,000 of our years. 90,000 of our years. Okay, not, I live to be 105 and I'm 5D moving into 12D. There's Peter. Peter, we were just talking about your ears must have been burning because the princess today just announced, at least they played it over here in the States, I don't know about for you in the UK, that she in fact does have cancer and is going to be doing a chemo. And I said, I wish Peter Coyle was here because he's been predicting this for a couple years now. And he also predicted that the king, who is also having cancer problems with his prostate, will be stepping down as the king and that she'll be stepping down and that her husband's going to end up being king soon. So I'm glad you showed up because your ears must have been burning. We were just talking about you. So she literally just announced, they played it on the news, that she went in, Kate went in for Kate, right? Was that the right one? Yeah. She went in and had surgery and they found cancer and she's going to undergo chemo now.
Then, is there a time/space? Are there multiple incarnations in fourth density with time/space experiences between incarnations? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 43.13 Questioner: how long is a cycle of experience in fourth density in our years? Ra, The cycle of experience is approximately 30 million of your years if the entities are not capable of being harvested sooner. There is in this density a harvest which is completely the function of the readiness of the social memory complex.
Okay, so when you transition to the fourth dimension, fourth density, did you hear that? So here we have 75,000 year cycles for people. So you live 7 to 10 lifetimes, right? And then you can graduate, and then there's a cycle for harvesting. Over there it was, what did he just say, 30 million years, right? So that's because time is distorted here. So from our perspective, it's 30 million years and it's a very long time. But that's because we are separated with past, present, and future, and we're actually moving faster than or closer to the speed of light than any other beings, except for first and second density, which is also moving at the exact same rate of speed that we are. The first, the second, and the third dimension and densities are moving through the universe at the vibration that is the closest to the speed of light, to get this stuff compacted and also separate. As you move, even scientists are aware of this, the faster you move closer to the speed of light, the more everything stretches. Time stretches. We're aware of this because of physics. If you know anything about physics, you know that if you're this is one of the allegories that they've done as experiments, is used an old locomotive train, which is only going about 25 miles an hour. And if you have a clock that are synced up with one another, one at a station that you're going to go by, and one on the side of the train going by the station, and depending on where you are, whether you're on the train or whether you're at the station platform, and you observe the time, at the same time, you can see the time that you're standing next to the clock and the time from the train. As it moves away from you, you see that it appears to slow down as it's moving away from you. The faster it moves, the slower time travels. Okay, so literally, if you're standing, so just like people that are living at a higher altitude, actually, even with lower oxygen, they live longer. Their longevity is that they live longer because at a higher altitude, for whatever reason, the same thing happens. There's a dilation of time in the space-time continuum. So height, distance, and speed changes, and physics are aware of this and have been since the 1800s, when they used a horse and buggy to do the same thing, and then a train to do the same thing. And now they show that. And that's why Doc Brown did that, to show, as well as stepping over time by having Einstein jump over time to show you that. But literally, that's part of the experiments on time dilation or time distortion that they're aware of, that the faster, if you put a clock, sync it up with something else, and then have it go at Mach 1, Mach 2, and then have it flown back, you'll find that there's a differential in time, that it is no longer synced up. It's slower than the clock that it was synced up to before. Even if you have atomic clocks that are supposed to be able to sync up to the nanosecond, there's a time dilation when you speed the speed up around that clock and have that timepiece moving at a very fast rate of speed. So the scientists are aware of that. So the closer you get to the speed of light, they also have theorized that if somebody flies at close to the speed of light from here to the outer, the outer portion of our galaxy, or not our galaxy, but just our solar system, out past Pluto, and then turn around and come back at the same rate of speed, for the person that's doing that, it would only be about 10 minutes. And then when you got back to Earth, it would be like a year or two. So if you flew out far enough and back, you would come back and it could be a month, and you could be 50 years on Earth. And so you're flying super fast and going super far, but when you get back, time for you has slowed down. So the closer you get to the speed of light. And the reason I tell you all of this is to show you that from our perspective, the fourth dimension seems to be 30 million years long, because to us, we're moving so fast, we're closer to the speed of light, and time is distorted. So our past, present, and future happen, so that there's a pulling away of the time being all at once, but once you're in that dimension, it's just now. So the truth is that we can't, that's why he said you can't really explain it in detail as to exactly what takes place, because there's no way for us and this place for me to even get it across to you to explain zero time. Zero time means that you're moving not nowhere near as fast and close to the speed of light. So because of that, everything happens now and it's instantaneous. So all of that would be in a blink of an eye in our minds, but there it's a completely different physics dynamic. And so you can't even really describe it. It's like if you astral project and you think about going from one place to another, you're instantaneously there, no matter how far it is, 3, 4, 5,000 miles away, and you're just there. It doesn't take you time to move from one place to the other because you're outside the bounds of time. Okay, let's continue.
It is not structured as is your own, for it deals with a more transparent distortion of the one infinite creator. 43.14 Questioner. Then the big difference in Hive stability between third and fourth density is that at the end of the third density the individual is harvested as a function of individual violet ray. But in fourth density, is it the equivalent of violet ray then for the entire social memory complex that must be of a harvestable nature to go to fifth density? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct, although in fifth density entities may choose to learn as a social memory complex or as mind/body/spirit complexes and may graduate to sixth density under these conditions. For the wisdom density is an extremely free density, whereas the lessons of compassion leading to wisdom necessarily have to do with other selves. 43.15 Questioner. Then is sixth density harvest strictly of social memory complex because again we have compassion blended back using wisdom? Ra. I am Ra. This is quite correct. 43.16 Questioner. We know that the physical vehicle in fourth density that is used during space/time, I am assuming, is quite similar to the one that we now use in third density. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. The chemical elements used are not the same. However, the appearance is similar. 43.17 Questioner. Is it necessary to eat food in fourth density? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 43.18 Questioner. The mechanism of, shall we say, social catalyst due to a necessity for feeding the body then is active in fourth density. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is incorrect. The fourth density being desires to serve and the preparation of foodstuffs is extremely simple due to increased communion between entity and living foodstuff. Therefore, this is not a significant catalyst but rather a simple precondition of the space/time experience. The catalyst involved is the necessity for the ingestion of foodstuffs. This is not considered to be of importance by fourth density entities in it, therefore, aids in the teach/learning of patience. 43.19 Questioner. Could you expand a little bit on how that aids in the teach/learning of patience? Ra. I am Ra. To stop the functioning of service to others long enough to ingest foodstuffs is to invoke patience. 43.20 Questioner. I'm guessing that it is not necessary to ingest food in fifth density. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is incorrect. However, the vehicle needs food which may be prepared by thought. 43.21 Questioner. What type of food would this be? Ra. I am Ra. You would call this type of food nectar, or ambrosia, or a light broth of golden white hue. 43.22 Questioner. What is the purpose of ingesting food in fifth density? Ra. I am Ra. This is a somewhat central point. The purpose of space/time is the increase in catalytic action appropriate to the density. One of the preconditions for space/time existence is some form of body complex. Such a body complex must be fueled in some way. 43.23 Questioner. Then, there is a in third density the fueling of our bodily complex is not only simply fuels the complex but gives us opportunities to learn service. In fourth density it not only fuels the complex but gives us opportunities to learn patience. In fifth density it fuels the complex but does it teach? Ra. I am Ra. In fifth density it is comfort, for those of like mind gather together to share in this broth, thus becoming one in light and wisdom while joining hearts and hands in physical activity.
Right. So it's difficult to explain that, what exactly that is, because it's the closest thing that we would know, and a couple of you out there were just thinking it, is mana. As you transition from the physical, this is why he was saying that you don't need the foodstuffs, right? Foodstuffs meaning flesh of animals. So it's more of a broth. It's a brew. It's more of a nectar, as it were. It's something that you actually get from the universe itself. You literally just take it out of the thin air and convert it into sustenance because you're energy. So you're literally taking energy from the universe itself and consuming that. So it is completely a different ideology, but there still we have the base root here in third dimension idea of that, because when we eat food that is not been dumbed down, like fast foods and processed foods and all these foods that have a bunch of sugar and salt and crap in it, that's a very low energy food. And people, that's why we call it ascension foods. People that don't know the difference don't realize the energy difference that you gain from it, but they love home cooked. There's nothing like a home cooked meal. That's because the home cooked meal is cooked by someone who actually cares about what they're doing, and they're using natural products or good products if they can, and they're putting energy into it, positive, loving energy into the food. And that translates into the food that when you eat it. So grandma's food, mom's food, dad's food, whoever does the cooking in your family as you're growing up, you're going to love that food more than you do the crap you buy at a restaurant. Most of the time, you should go and look at the cooks that are cooking food at a restaurant, your favorite restaurant. You're going to find it's people that don't really want to be there, or you have one person that wants to be there, or it's a bunch of criminals or kids or whatever that somebody forced them into having a job. So they're not doing it with any kind of love. They're not creating in any way this food to be healthy. They're just trying to bang the food out as much as they can to serve a purpose, no different than making a coffee, selling a coffee or a burger at a fast food restaurant. And it literally gets you in, stack them high and watch them fly, is what we used to say in the retail world. So if you have somebody in your family that's a chef, you know the difference, or anyone who is a culinary minded person, but especially someone who's been trained. And so the reason that these chefs are so anal and yell and scream at people is because they want everybody to have pride in what they're doing. They're not just Nazis doing it because they get off on it. Some of them maybe. Right? I mean, you can't ever guarantee 100% of what anybody is motivated by. However, most of these people that are top-notch chefs around the world get paid that for a reason, because the food that they create is as high energy food, and it's very good tasting, and it's because they're diligent about what they do, and they take care and love in what they do because they're proud of it and they want people to feel the difference. Same thing with, if you look at things that are all steroid infested and organic, and people say, oh, that's just not true. I will do a blind taste test for anybody at any time. And I do it all the time. I use peanut butter as an example, or a banana, whatever fruit or vegetable that you like. People say, I like bananas. Okay. And then we'll go and get a banana that's not organic and get an organic banana. And then, blindfold you, close your eyes so you don't know which one is what, and you're going to taste them both and you rate them and tell us which one is the best one. And if you do it with two different people and give them the crappy one first and then the organic one, and give the other one the organic one first and the crappy one first, 9 times out of 10 they're going to pick exactly the same one every time, and they're going to go, oh my god, that is the greatest tasting banana I've ever had. That's the organic one. And I've done that with peanut butter, where people are like, oh, I don't care, that's this is the best peanut butter, whatever the company name is, and it's usually mostly sugar and salt and not actually peanuts. And I go and get there's only a couple of companies here in the United States that make peanut butter that is literally, the ingredients are peanuts, salt, right? There's only 2. It's actually the same company. There's Smucker's and there's Laura Scudder's, and they're both owned by the Smucker company. And here in the United States, and they're old fashioned. You have to stir them. There's a couple of companies that are trying to cash in on that, because people are returning to the old ways in that respect. And they're starting to go for that, because if you like peanut butter and you taste this other peanut butter, you think it's the greatest peanut butter you've ever had, and this is the stuff I eat all the time. And then you get one of these that you have to stir up, that the ingredients are peanuts, salt, and sometimes peanut oil. That's it. Anything more than 3 ingredients and it's got crap in it. You read that and you look at that, and then you taste that, and then you taste the peanut butter that you thought was the greatest peanut butter. First of all, when you put them next to one another, the peanut butter is going to be the one that's just got 3 ingredients, is going to be peanuts mashed up into a butter. The other one is going to all of a sudden look to you like it's only got half of the color of the other one. It's all sugar and salt. And you don't know that because you're used to buying the other one and eating it until you actually find that this is the way peanut butter tasted at Grandma's house when I was a kid. That's because Grandma had real peanut butter. She didn't have Jif or Skippy or any of these brands. That's American brands that I'm talking about here. So my point is that you can realize that here, but that doesn't do justice to the 4th and the 5th dimensional density nectar that you consume there, because you don't need the physical body as much, so you're more feeding the soul. So it takes on more of a guise of a transitioning phase to where it's more than just something to fuel the physical body that you get here, and then a little bit of energy on top of that. It's more energy on top of that and a little bit for the physical body that you do here. So it flips and it becomes more spiritual. So there's more involved in when you drink that. And the only time that a place where they showed that was in the movie Tron from 1981 or 82, whenever that movie came out, where they had the water that they drank. And when they drank the water was glowing like it had a light that was illuminating from everywhere. And Flynn, who was in fact a user and was pulled into the Matrix, when he drank the water, it gave him all kinds of energy that he was able to tell. They did as well as programs, but they didn't realize the potential of that energy. And Flynn was like, whoa, when he drank it, and he realized that that energy was, he could do things with it and create there. And it almost made him invincible. And that's why he was drinking the water. He realized that it was manna. So that's the only place that I've ever seen it. It's rare. You see it sometimes in things like the movie Dune, where they have the juice of Safu, and that speeds up the mentat. And you see that with Piter, and I can't remember the other mentat's name off the top of my head, but and that was a derivative of the spice. It was the Safu flower. The Safu root of a flower that grew in the desert, and so with the nutrients that it was getting was from the spice. I know that from the book. I don't think they described that in the movie, but it's in the book. I'll have to find out. The second movie's out now, so I'll have to find out if they talk about it. So what you get is more nectar-like in its energy. That's the only reference I can give you down here. It's manna, and it's not the leavened bread manna that came down from came down from God, which was supposed to be God in the floating city, which I believe was the Anunnaki in their flying spaceship when they had Moses following them through the desert. I don't believe that was actually a God raining down anything from heaven, because what they carried around inside the Ark of the Covenant actually would kill anyone from cancer, because it was radioactive. It was a radioactive device. And everybody that got in contact with it died of cancer from it. And it doesn't sound like a God who knows everything, that is putting an artifact that is this relic that is supposed to be all powerful for the human race. But if you open it up and you look at it, you'll die instantly. And then people today, from what the people died from, if you go and read that and you actually look at it, it's radiation sickness and radiation burning, which means that they had a radioactive device that they were walking around with, and it was contained inside that structure that was there, and anybody who opened it that wasn't supposed to died from it. So I don't believe that was a good God, a benevolent good God, who would say, oh, here's this radioactive device that'll murder you, and you got to carry it around with you for 40 years in the desert, but you can only open it if I tell you how and when, because if you do, then everybody that looks at it will die. Well, that's what happens if it's radioactive. You open it up and everybody dies from isotopes. So, we can get into the philosophical ideology about that, but if you look it up, read it. That's literally what's going on. All right, let's continue here.
Thus, in this density, it becomes a solace rather than a catalyst for learning. 43.24 Questioner: I am simply trying to trace you might say, the evolution of this catalyst that then, as you say, changes in 5th density. I might as well complete.
Okay, but like he says here, it becomes more of a solace, not a catalyst. So it's not automatic, right? it's the possibility of that, if you, just like here, if you take something, an experience, and you utilize that experience as a learning tool, you see it that way, then you'll learn from it. But if you don't, it just happens to you. This is why I always say to people, this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. All of this that's going on that you're a part of isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And if you have that understanding, not understanding, but understanding that everything that's going on is designed by us, for us, to have experiences of being alive. That's what this whole entire endeavor is for in the third dimension. This entire matrix has been and is being created so that we know what it means to be mortal. So it's not happening to us unless you think that. So if you think life is happening to me and I have no control over it and it's just running me over and it's just evil and it's just destroying me, and unless I play the part, that's what they want you to believe. If you get locked into the matrix and you do what they tell you to do, they'll give you power, money, fame, control, and all of that goes along with it. But then you work for them. You're owned by them. You work for them. You're fealty to them, and you belong to them. So that's the only way that you get all those things. So if you're willing to do that, then you're one of those people in Hollywood that's willing to be pimped out and let whoever producer rape you for a job, whether you're a man or a woman. That's what they do. They pimp you out, they control you, they get you hooked on drugs, they do stuff to you, whatever it is that they feel like doing to you. And that's the price you pay for the fame that they control in the here and now. The one thing they can't control is your spirituality, because they don't believe that it even exists. So they have to tell you it doesn't. Do you see? So if you're thinking this world is happening to you and they convince you of that, you will then be more apt to listen to them and do what they tell you to do, because they're going to make sure that everything is happening to you. That's what they'll continue to do. They'll just be in control of what happens to you. That's what they're designing this place to be. They're taking control of this place. That is what people who are in service to self need, is this place. There is no existence if this place doesn't exist for them. So therefore, people in service to self have to have you convinced that there is nothing else, because to them, there can't be. Because their entire way of existence counts on the fact that there is nothing else but this place. Therefore, that place has to be denied. It can't be real. There can't be anything besides here, because then everything they own, everything they are, everything they believe crumbles and it becomes inconsequential and doesn't mean anything. The only way it means something is that it has to be everything. Do you see? So they have to get you convinced to live in this place and believe this place is everything. And without it, you will cease to exist. That is what this place is designed to do. It does that on its own, naturally. This is why I say all the time, this place isn't happening. It just thinks it is. This place isn't real. It just thinks it is. Okay. So this place is designed to be an ego, to think it's real. It's not an entity, but it is, because it's inside of our mind. This entire thing is just a daydream that you, me, and that everybody else is having. Okay, so getting back on point, so it's not a catalyst. The energy there, the nectar there in the fifth density, it is in fact a solace, which means that it is a possibility for you to then learn if you see it and realize it. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. So that's why it's so hard to describe that. If you're single-minded, linear thinking in the here and now in the third dimension, everything I just said to you means absolutely nothing. And I sound insane because I have to be crazy, because you have to believe that this is all there is. That's it. Nothing else can exist for you. It cannot. Do you understand? Okay, let's continue.
This and ask if there is any ingestion of food in sixth density. Ra, I am Ra.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize some of you are just chiming in for the first time. and Jetta, welcome. Deborah, welcome. You guys said hi, and I didn't see that you guys were here. So, welcome to the show. Welcome to the machine. You guys should go and listen to that song too from Pink Floyd, right? Figure out what they were talking about. There's a lot of songs by that band that were very spiritually high-minded and high spirituality. Welcome to the machine. They're literally talking about. So Tom McDonald wrote a song similar to it, right? That wasn't called The Machine, but it was very similar. And those of you out there who know Tom McDonald, you know what I'm talking about. He literally had a song that was about the same thing. It was about the system. It was about the ego that is all of the system, and it meant the same thing as that song by Pink Floyd from, I guess that was in the 70s when I was a tiny little wee lad. All right, let's continue. So literally the nectar. Let's get back on point, and then I'll let Ross start talking again. So the nectar that's there, the closest thing that we can say, so that you here have a point of reference, is that it is nectar-like. That you would see like the birds, and perfect example would be the hummingbird drinking the nectar, and the amount of energy that the hummingbird gets from that high intensity, high sugar vibration, and that's the only way I can physically put that. But it's sustenance for your spirit, for your soul, and then a little sustenance for the physical body, because in the fifth dimension, your physical body is about 38% less. No, it's more than that. It's 63% gone. So, no, they're telling me 72% gone. Your physical body is 72% gone in that place. So there's not much of you left physically. And you're transitioning, you're more of a glow now. You're starting to condense. The heart is very shiny, and that's the focal point. It's obvious that that's the focal point, and you still have a little bit of a torso, no legs, and your arms are already almost completely gone at that point. So you're a head in a torso, and the torso see-through, and that's already going away. So by the time you get into the sixth, your energy, by that time, you don't have a physical body anymore, and you still are getting energy from the universe itself. At that point, the transition is more back towards source. So you're getting source energy more in the spiritual than you are in the physical, because the physical is going away.
This is correct. However, the nature of this food is that of light and is impossible to describe to you in any meaningful way as regards the thrust of your query. 43.
Right. See, that's why I spent as much time. I should have let Ross say that and then do that. So if you guys were wondering, everything that I just went through for the past 20 minutes trying to explain that is as close as I can get in this dimension for you to understand. And Rod just said it's almost impossible to describe to you what it's like in our terms, because there's just no point of reference here. So that I tried to do as best that I could, but it still doesn't do it any justice whatsoever. And if you guys know that, I think I said that last week, for those of us who are unveiled, and there's not very many of us, it's confusing for us, because I can only tell you what the average person out there in the world is capable of understanding right now. So if I worked with each one of you one-on-one, I could give you more details if you are at a higher level of understanding than I can here live. But I can do pretty good. If the smaller the setting, the better off. But this is going out to the world. If we were in an arena, even if it was just a room in a hotel and there was 20 of us, I would have a better opportunity there. That's why people like me go and speak in front of people, because the amount of the crowd that's there is going to determine how far we can go with our information to the people that are there. Those people can then try to convey that to other people afterwards. And what happens is they'll tell other people, and people go, yeah, okay, that guy's just crazy. And they won't listen. So because the average is one-on-one again. But like if I'm in an arena of 1 million people and I'm trying to give an answer to somebody, I can only give the average. The best I can do is give the average of the amount of people that are going to hear it. And if they're filming it and it's going to go out to the world, it becomes the world average. So when I'm doing a podcast, the information I can give you, even if it sounds insane to you, is what the entire species on this earth is capable of understanding on average. Okay, so one-on-one, I could probably give more details to people that were higher vibration. Sometimes we would do this when we talk live, and I know that when I do it now and I say things, sometimes people go, okay, that was just insane. What you had just said doesn't make sense. I think Cody said her husband thinks I'm crazy most of the time. If he hears me talking when I'm on, he's like, yeah, that guy's nuts, right? Well, to him, some of the things that I say are far out of his comfort zone, and our first instinct is to go, that can't be true, and that guy's crazy.
3.25 questioner. In fourth density on this planet after we're totally transitioned, and the harvest is complete, fourth density beings will be incarnate on the surface of this planet as we know it now, this particular surface. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. The probability/possibility vortices indicate this to be most likely. 43.26 questioner. Then will there be at that time any fifth density and/or sixth density beings on the surface of the planet? Ra, I am Ra. Not for a fairly long measure of your time, as fourth density beings need to spend their learn/teaching space/time.
Welcome, right? Dawn just showed up and said hi. Who else said hi there? There's what's his name there? Joshua, the psychic medium, right? I used to follow you on TikTok, but I've deleted my TikTok. TikTok is going to be banned here in the United States pretty soon. And if not, they're going to have to sell. India's already banned it. I think the UK is banning it. A couple of countries, Japan's banned it. A few other countries are banning TikTok. So it's going to be banned here in the United States if they don't sell. So I went ahead and just got off the platform. If they do change the dynamic, maybe I'll be back on, but I deleted my app and my platform. So, Joshua, I was following you on TikTok, but now I'm gone off TikTok. I don't think I think my page is still up for like 30 days. It's just like Facebook. When you go to delete it, they wait and make sure that you know that you're. But I deleted the app off my phone, so I will no longer be posting on TikTok until such time as that they get that algorithm under control here and around the world. That countries are banning that turning it off. India literally turned it off not too long ago. Okay, so welcome, brother. I'm glad that you're here listening into the Law of One. So let's continue with Ra. If you guys have questions, and Dawn, by the way, I see that you were there and you said hi. I was going to say hi to you, and I did and mentioned you, but I didn't say hi. So hi. So if you guys have questions about anything, ask them in the chat, and I will pause to answer that. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking about what Ra is talking about. Okay.
With their own densities entities. 43.27 questioner. Then basically what you are saying is that at that point the teachings of fifth or sixth density beings would not be too well understood by the fourth density, new fourth density. Ra, I am Ra. Do you wish to query us upon this point? 43.28 questioner. I guess I didn't state that correctly. Is it true that the fourth density, new fourth density beings then need to evolve in their thinking to reach a point where fifth density lessons would be of value? Ra, I am Ra. We grasp the thrust of your query. Although it is true that as fourth density beings progress they have more and more need for other density teachings, it is also true that just as we speak to you due to the calling, so the information called is always available. It is simply that fifth density beings will not live upon the surface of the planetary sphere until the planet reaches fifth density vibratory level. 43.29 questioner.
Right. So people think that like all planets have people in every dimension living there. They don't. This one currently has first, second, third, fourth, and eighth dimensional beings living here. That's it. There's no fifth, sixth, seventh on this earth. And third isn't really supposed to be here anymore. It's supposed to be fourth, and that's it. And then eighth. So literally first, second, because there's third dimension, the first and second dimension has to be there always, because the third dimension is made up of the first, the second, and the third. So the first and second make up the third, and then the beings that are in the flesh are sentient. When you are self-aware, that's third dimension. So it doesn't always work that way. There's a lot of planets out there that are first and second, that the third dimensional life has already ceased to exist there. And so but they're still first and second dimensional life that is evolving. And then when whatever that entity is, say there's a bird or a fish or a tree or whatever, becomes self-aware, when that life ends, the spirit that is now self-aware, goes to the next nearest planet that sustains third dimensional life, and then they are inserted into a body of whatever the life form is on that planet, and their mind wipes, so they don't even remember that they may have traveled for 10 light years to get to the nearest third dimensional planet, sustainable. So that's why when I talk about this, people say also, you think you're an alien. No, I didn't physically come here in a spaceship. Okay. Did not do that. And that more than 60% of the souls that are currently residing in human form on this planet did not evolve here, came from somewhere else. 68% of the total population of beings on this earth in third dimensional form did not start their first dimensional beingness on this earth. And it's actually higher than that, but I don't want to get into the semantics of that because some came into the second. Okay. Some came into the second and then moved into the third. And some were first and second on other planets in the solar system, and some were on nearby systems. Okay. So that just scares people, and they just, you have no proof of that. You're right. I don't. And that's the purpose of it. There's not supposed to be definitive proof, because then you wouldn't doubt. There's supposed to be doubt in this place because you're supposed to choose. You're supposed to choose a path. So if everybody knew it, that's the purpose of the veiling. It's the purpose of chaos, is because there was a time before all of this was happening, and we all knew that we were the creator of the universe, and that we were separated to try and have an experience that was organic. Well, it wasn't working right because we were lazy, and we were like, yeah, I'm God, man. You're God. I'm God. We're all God. It's cool, man. We'll get there, dude, when we get there, okay? Because we're God, right? So we were a bunch of surfer dudes from Southern California, and we weren't moving fast enough. So the creator said, I'm fucking lazy. I need to fix something. So the third dimension that is currently happening was created. This scenario was created so that we would have an organic, fully organic experience in life, death, and everything that it entails. So we had to have the separation of, church and state. We had to have the separation of good and evil. We had to have the separation of the sexes. We had to have the separation of time. We had to have all of those things play a factor. This ecosystem that is created mind wipes us. We don't know. Therefore, we have far better experiences, because now we have a whole new range of experiences that are completely flesh based, that are completely negative based, and then you have the nurturing base, and so you have the masculine and the feminine, the war and the peace, and all the things in between, the spiritual and the physical, the flesh and the spirit and the soul. So we've by creating this scenario, quantified exponentially the experiences that we could then have. And the best way it works is that we don't get to know about it until we get to know about it. So the only people who get to know about it are those who start down the path of ascension in the spiritual, and then you wake up to that, and that's part of your ascension to graduate. Otherwise, you have to be a mass murderer like Genghis Khan, or somebody like that, where you murder a whole bunch of people and then kill yourself so that you can ascend as evil to the next dimension. So you have to be locked in to this place in the evil side and be super evil to graduate as a spirit in the physical, from the physical plane to the fourth dimension. In the spiritual side, you only have to be 51% in service to others. That's it. 1% over half. But on the other side, you have to be 98% evil to graduate. So everybody who's doing all this petty evil here, they're not actually graduating to the fourth dimension on the evil side. They're just rehashing and going over and over down here in purgatory, not getting to graduate. So it's rare evil people that do a lot of evil things, or people that do a lot of sub-evil. They're not just murder, and they do raping and pillaging and controlling and beating and torturing people and things like that. And then they can move up. Rasputin, right? Vlad the Impaler. So you know about these people. A lot of people would say Adolf Hitler. He wasn't, in fact, that evil. Adolf Hitler actually didn't graduate into the fourth. He's still in the place of healing because he was so screwed up from what he did here. So you have to realize that literally what you choose is how you ascend, and that it takes work on either side. Okay, let's continue here.
I was wondering, then, if the mechanism of teach/learning was the same, relatively, then in fourth density. From what you say, it seems that it is necessary for first the call to exist for the teach/learning of fifth density to be given to fourth just as a call.
Right, yeah, Cody said, my mom told me not to take acid because my uncle did, and he had a conversation with Jesus. So, of course, I went and found some. Right, so, right, that's just like, that now that Robert Kennedy Jr. was saying that Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, the football star, is a possible candidate as a running mate for his vice presidency, for the vice president for his running for president currently. The media rolled out, well, Aaron Rodgers is nuts because he takes that ayahuasca stuff and he believes this wild, crazy shit. Anybody who is locked into the third dimension or indoctrinated by the corrupted churches around the world and their indoctrination, they can't believe anything exists. So if you say you have a conversation with God or a conversation with Jesus, you automatically must be crazy. And if it was due to something that expanded your consciousness, then it was a drug and it's in your nuts. But those very people who are the deep state around the world in every country that you're in experiment with those drugs on people. Why? Because they're trying to figure out how they can control people. The fact that they are not using these psychedelic drugs to control the masses is because they can't. Otherwise, they'd be doing it. So what they're doing is they're getting you convinced that you have an ailment and you have to take pharmaceutical medication. And that medication is controlling you. They have to do that, but they can't. Otherwise, if peyote, if marijuana, if acid, if all these things worked the way they wanted it to, and had you locked into this place and were an automaton and very susceptible to their suggestions, they would already be having you take it. So all of these drugs, which they were using here in the United States, the reason that we have, acid, is because LSD is because the government introduced it to the population because they were trying to use that drug to control people. And it didn't turn out the way they wanted it to because it expands people's consciousness and people started wanting to take it recreationally because it was opening doors. Okay. Leary was literally a part of the CIA experimenting with that. And in the 60s, 1960s here in the United States, well, all of that had to stop. They had to get everybody off the drugs. Why? It was expanding everybody's consciousness. They were waking up in a way that there's still ramifications of it to this day. Okay? So they had to stifle it and turn it into a drug that's illegal. Right? And then you have the progressives that are trying to get marijuana legal everywhere, and people that are, the people that are locked into the matrix are like, even the conservative ones that are locked in the matrix. Well, they're trying to get everybody high because if you're high, then you're too stupid to do anything because that's what they're told that drug does. Okay. So they are trying to get everybody hooked on it because people that have, again, the nectar that is THC is a solace, not a catalyst. And they're trying to control it and make it a catalyst to control you and keep you nonviolent and so doped up all the time that you're escaping reality and you're not actually learning from it. It's actually, that's why I loved the James Bond movie, The Quantum of Solace, because the solace is the ability that's there for you to learn from if you recognize it. That is what, look up solace and see what that means. It doesn't mean, a catalyst means something that is out of your control that creates a scenario, whether you like it or not. DMT, ayahuasca, acid, all of these hallucinogens, as they call them, all of these drugs are a solace, not a catalyst. The only catalyst is that it gives you the possibility. So if you're not using it for what it's intended, and you're just using it to escape, then it is the catalyst for you. And that's why I take the smartphone, and I made that reel that said you're supposed to be using this for bettering yourself spiritually. Because the cell phone, if you're using the smartphone, the internet, and you're using it wisely, you see it as a solace. It's there for me to have better experiences, to learn. Literally the entire history of the human existence is at my fingertips in this smartphone. Everything that is ever known to exist on this earth is readily available for me to find there. I have to sift through all of the people that are locked into the here and the now, the secularists, and their rhetoric of none of this is real, it's all bullshit. However, let me give you the myth, the fake story that those crazy people believe, because they can't just eradicate it. They've tried that for generations. Dead Sea Scrolls, they literally had for almost 2,000 years before they were refound. But they were refound. And there's other scrolls that are out that are waiting for people to find, and they will be found when they were meant to be found. Okay? When the human existence and experience is capable of understanding that, they will be found. The 13th skull, crystal skull, for instance, the libraries that I know are buried underground that you guys don't know about, that if I told you was in a certain place, then people would run out and look for it physically, and if they found them, they would immediately confiscate them and burn them. The governments would. So these will be found and hidden away, and some of them are now already found and hidden away until people are already starting to get the information out there. That's why you don't hear anything from scientists until they go, we found these in 2012, and now they're all of a sudden telling the world, and it's 10 years later, 12 years later. Why did they hide them for 12 years? Because they needed to, until they could uncover them to the world and tell the world about it, where they were not under the thumb and control of other people to get murdered over it. Information is out there now. Literally a guy by the name, the most decorated soldier in history in the United States of America, who was in exile in Australia because he was hunted and was being tried to be killed by his own government here in the United States, by the United States government. Colonel David Hackworth, retired, I met him in person, Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine Corps, David Hackworth. Our government, the deep state, was trying to kill him because of what he knew and what he was telling the world. I remember seeing him when I was a little boy, when he was in Vietnam, and my father was telling me, listen to what this man is telling, what he's talking about. And I watched him on the news, and he was talking shit about the military, the government, the deep state at the time. So they went after him, and they tried to kill him, and he went and was in exile, and he stayed, and because of that, the government didn't kill him. Then he wrote a book called About Face, and back in the 80s or early 90s, I don't remember if it was in the late 80s, early 90s, he wrote a book called About Face. It was like more than 1,000 pages long, and it told about his life in the military, from being in the Second World War into Korea, into Vietnam, and then going into exile, and everything that was going on and all the politics of everything that was happening around the world. And he wrote that book and published it. And once it was out there, they could no longer just kill him off because his information was out there. That's the example of that. People do that all over. You have whistleblowers that do that. You got to get the information out there so that they can't kill you off. If they do, it's obvious that it's going to make your stuff be even more sought after by people. So they have to ignore you and then deny it, and that's all they can do. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, so knowledge is out there, but the people aren't ready for it. And then there's knowledge out there that the people that are in control now can't have. That's why the Templar Knights hid stuff, because the evil people that were trying to get control of all of their land and money were also trying to get control of certain artifacts. If you look at the Second World War, for instance, the Nazis in Nazi Germany, they were going all around the world trying to get relics that all these people throughout all of the world believed it would give them special powers, and whether they would or not, they were believed that the people believed it, so they wanted to get control of all these things. And they were far more spiritually active around the world trying to find stuff than anyone really knows about. You should look into that. Governments do that. Evil people go after what they think is going to get everybody else following them or believing that they have power over them. Do you see? This is my point. So knowledge is good and bad. If you get all knowledge out there, that knowledge can be ascertained and taken and used by evil people to control the masses. So certain knowledge, we have to be careful that it doesn't get out to them, because evil people can utilize that to take total control of the population with that same knowledge. So that knowledge has to be ready. People have to be ready for it, so that when the knowledge gets out there, if evil people try to take control of it, there's enough good people that go, no. Okay. So you have to realize that. So again, this is another reason why Ra can't give you all of the information in 1984. It's another reason why I say there is some information that I can't give out to the world, because the world's not ready for it. And that usually means there are evil people that will utilize that knowledge. The fact that Ra's taking this, Ra will tell you this, in 1981 to 1984, that they came here not aware of, in their words, our affinity for bellicosity, our violence and controlling mechanism that is the deep state of the world at the time, back during the Egyptian pantheon. And they gave information to the priests, the Egyptian priests, who were self-serving and took that information to use that to control and gain power. And they corrupted the matrix by learning about it from Ra. This is why Ra is still here trying to help out, because they helped screw us up and get us stuck. They admit that in the first, I think, 5 or 6 sessions. Definitely by the end of the first book. Okay. So they didn't realize, because they came from a place that didn't have this kind of veiling, because they grew up before this kind of veiling. So they didn't understand what was happening, and they gave information out readily without thinking about what they were doing. And now safeguards are in effect. This is part of the lockdown that goes on these places that were corrupted, is to not allow that. So the matrix has been changed, so that certain information can't be passed forward to the mass population. If the mass population is not, that's the Star Trek pantheon, that was called the Prime Directive, right? That you couldn't do certain things because it would be to the detriment of that race of beings being simpler than you are, technologically advanced or spiritually. Well, this is the way the universe actually does work now. Okay. And in some places that this kind of thing happens, then in that solar system, it also gets locked down, so that there's a governing body that is literally paying attention to everything. You know, that is the Galactic Council, or the Council of Planets. That literally there is a curfew and a lockdown and of the solar system that keeps anybody from, in any way, physically or spiritually, affecting and taking control. So everyone tries to get you to believe that there's these aliens that are in control, and that this is a slave colony that was created in the third dimension, and that there's some slave masters out there with machines that when you die, you don't want to go into the light, because the light's actually a trap to zap your soul, so they can take your soul in this machine and put it back into a human body. Or they have secret agents that collect you and say, wait, you're on a secret mission, you need to come back. All of that is telling a little teeny truth with a bunch of lies to get you to be afraid, so that you don't believe there is anything out there, that third dimensional beings are in control and they're going to come get you because they're boogeymen, right? And if you believe that, then you believe, if you were in the Pacific Ocean in 1944, that the Americans who flew in on an airplane were in fact gods, and you would build a bamboo replica of their spacecraft thinking the gods would return, because that happened in real life when the Americans were island hopping, fighting against the Japanese, to people who were living in the Pacific Ocean, who had never seen technology or people from the United States or any technologically advanced human race in the modern era in 1944. This is true. You can look it up. Google that shit. Use the secular, controlled evil system that is Google. Look it up. It's true. He'll even show you a picture of them, their aircraft that they made out of bamboo that looked like a fighter plane that would fly in, that our guys flew in, because they found the island, built a runway there so that they could fly there and fuel up to go and attack the Japanese out in the water. Midway Island was a perfect example of that. So literally, and then you had guys that were Japanese that were living on the island, didn't know the war was over. 20 years later, they were old men still thinking that they were holding down the fort for the Japanese Empire, and that one day they were going to come and get them off the island. And people showed up there and they were still thinking that they had to fight a war. Okay, so this is what happens when you take away, if you have no idea if you grew up in the era of smartphones. I just watched Jennifer Hudson earlier while I was getting ready for the show. I have that on for my mom, and she was showing, I don't know if it was her son, it was a young man, and she had a telephone that was a rotary dial telephone, a typewriter, old school typewriter. What else did she have there? She had a couple of things that, a Rolodex, and she was having him use those, and he had no idea what he was doing, which he shouldn't, because those things are 40 years before he was born. I remember those when I was a kid, because I remember having in the 90s before there was computers, right? We didn't even have smartphones until whenever that was, 2002 or whatever. So literally, I remember the technology when we used to have to, when I was in college, we literally had to put the paper in the typewriter and roll it, ring, 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 and then lift up the tab and put the paper under, ding, to write everything, right? Old school, when I was a kid, you had to pick up the hammer of the phone and put it up to your ear and hit the dial and dial the numbers. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And you had to go to call somebody on the phone. And that was an upgrade from when you used to have to pick up the phone and talk into the microphone and go, Esther, give me 227 in LA, please. And then it would go to another operator and you go, hi, yeah, call Ben Johnson at 457 Street. Okay, no problem. Then they would take the phone and connect it and ring up Ben Johnson, and his phone would ring and he'd pick it up. Hello. And if you wanted to call the operator, you had to pick up the megaphone and stick it in your ear and ring the little thing, and it would ring it down in the station. So the old phones that were rotary dial was the new version of that. Now you just take your cell phone. You don't even have to talk to it. You can just talk to it now. You don't even have to push a button if you want to. Call mom. The phone just calls mom. So it's just a new upgrade. Pretty soon you won't even have to say those things. You could just think it and it'll do that. That technology they're working on, that scares everybody, because then if they're already stealing everything you do in keystrokes, which is what all these corporations are doing, even now I'm on Facebook, they're doing the same thing. What's going to happen when they have access to your mind? They're going to literally record all your thoughts. You think things are bad now and you're targeted by commercials. Wait until all of your thoughts that you're not even realizing you're thinking, that is a partial subconscious thought, is out there, and that's taken, and all of a sudden there's going to be commercials. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to have commercials popping up on your television that has something to do with a daydream or something worse, that you were thinking about murdering somebody or raping somebody because it was a thought, or something bad. And then you're going to see commercials for it. And so then that's quickly will be changing things, because when your devices are reading your mind and that's becoming shown to the whole world, no one's going to want that. And right now it has to be something that you look up, that pops up on your phone. You can just talk about stuff these days. Your phone's listening and you get commercials, right? That's already bad enough. We need to stop that. We need to literally have set a precedent around the world that protects that right, so that companies can't do this anymore, whether they like it or not, because they're making trillions of dollars off of it. So they're going to fight really hard and pay off all of your politicians, because money is the currency of the realm, right? Currency is the currency of the realm. Okay, let's continue here because it is getting later. All right, so let's continue with Raw. But this is literally, Raw's kind of getting into this information and talking about that. I know I'm going further and giving you many different descriptions of that, but this is literally what we're up against, and all of this is supposed to be happening for you, so that it's solace. It's the quantum of solace. It's literally the ability for you to see it as a something that you can benefit from, instead of it happening to you forcibly or against your will.
All must exist here before fourth density lessons are given to third. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This query is misguided, for experience in fourth density is...
Right. Joanne said it's like seeing the world through rose-colored glasses and see the beautiful things that are surrounding you. Realize that you are rich, feel that you are rich, then manifest the richness in your life. How you see life dictates your future. Yeah, literally Qui-Gon Jinn said that to Anakin. I think it was Anakin that he was talking to when he said, your focus determines your reality. Remember that. He might have been talking to Obi-Wan at the time. Doesn't matter. He was teaching. It was a teaching moment. And that's literally the same thing, that how you perceive your reality determines your reality, right? So you have to realize that. So if you choose to see beauty around you, or you choose to see things happening for you, not at you, then you will be more apt to learn from them, as opposed to run away from them and not want to have it because you think they're harming you. So, Joanne, I love that analogy that you just gave, because that's perfectly in tune. So it depends on how you see the world. So that's why when people that's why I say the difference between being subjective and objective. If you have an objective mindset, you're looking at things objectively and realistically. And that's what that means, being honest, open, and realistic about the experiences that are happening around you. And subjective means you're subject to. It means you're under something's influence. So if you're subjectively looking, that's pessimistically looking as opposed to optimistically looking at something. That's why that whole allegory of, do you see, a cup? This is not exactly the right measurements, but is it half full or half empty to you? A pessimist will say it's half empty. An optimist will say it's half full. So that tells the determination of your mindset and how you see things. If you see it as half empty, then you believe this is happening to you, and that everything that happens around you is against you. Why does God kill all these people around me? Why are all these people dying? Why is God doing this to me? Every time I take one step forward, it's two steps back. Every time I try to do this, it's knocking me down. That is all you're ever going to see, because you're passively, pessimistically, subjectively existing in reality, and you believe that reality is against you and everyone's against you and they're defeating you and stepping all over you. That's what the secularists want you to believe. And that the only way out of that is to trust them and give your fealty to them, and then they'll make you rich and powerful and famous and all of that. But you have to let them do whatever they want to you in return, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to control you, and take most of your money. They're going to pimp you out, have sex with you, do all this stuff, make you be their slave, make you kiss their feet, and have sex with them whenever they want, murder somebody, whatever that they need you to do for those riches, because they control the here and now, because they're about the here and now, and they want you to believe that they own it all. And so when you buy into that, they reward you for that, right? But that's the only way that you get it. That's what the Matrix was about. And the guy in there saying, I'll give up Neo and everybody, but I want to be put back into the Matrix. I don't want to remember anything. And I just want us all to go away, and I want to go back to living a life there, but I want to be somebody famous and have money, and then I'll reinsert and I'll give you all of them. Because the reality was harder. Reality was harder, and you didn't have, they were eating oatmeal based, or whatever you want to call it. The food they were eating, a porridge, and it didn't taste like anything. So he missed all of the Matrix. He missed the food and the flavors and everything that it entailed, in the fame and the fortune, and he was in service to self. So even though he had gotten out, he really didn't like it. He didn't want this reality anymore, even though it was real, and he didn't want to be fighting against the machine. He just wanted to be back as a part of it, not know any of it, and that way he could just enjoy. That's a person who sees everything as half empty and is very pessimistic, and they're all about, I just want to go back to the way things were. I want it to be normal. And that's what they consider normal. So if you go, well, I want things to be simpler. I always liked it when it was simpler. I don't like all this complication. I don't want any of this. That you're pessimistic, and you want it all to go away. And the only way it's going to go away is that you have to really give up on yourself and go with the flow again. And a lot of people choose that because they don't know what to do otherwise, and they're afraid, and they don't want to go against the grain because they get opposition. The fact that you get opposition and you're canceled and they go after you is your punishment for not listening to them. And they do that on purpose, because if you're weak minded and you're weak in your soul and you're weak in stature, you will cave to them and go, okay, wow, I'll take the warning and I'll go back and just shut up and fall back in line. And that's what they do to everybody. And it is a low amount of people that resist them. And those people they used to murder and kill you off as soon as they could. And they will try to do everything to destroy your life by controlling everything around you. Look what they're doing to Donald Trump here in the United States right now. That is what they're trying to do. Whether you like him or not, I probably just triggered a bunch of you, and you're going to leave now because you got triggered because I said Donald Trump. Oh, he must be one of those crazy people. Now we're at war with each other because your ego got triggered. And then there's some of you that are going to be the other way around. And even though I mentioned Donald Trump, you're going to go, he must be one of those people that hates Donald Trump. Let's get him. Because you're picking a side in the religion of evil, and you don't know that you're an acolyte in the religion of evil. The fact that you choose that religion all in and of itself and don't even realize it's a religion should tell you something. Okay. So you have to realize that the way you look at life. So if you see life from the perspective of abundance and beauty and stature and energy, you change everything about yourself and you stop living your life the other way. Life actually starts working. Whether they like it or not, they can't control it. They stop being able to control you the second you actually start questioning everything. They know that. That's why they have to stifle you and shut you up, because they can't have you talking to other people. Because if you start talking to other people and you start telling them this stuff and people start listening to you, things go away that they have control over. That's why they don't teach you how to become like them anymore in schools anywhere on the planet. That's also why in countries they don't teach you their native language anymore. They don't want you learning that. They want you learning the language of the people that are in control of you. They make it illegal. The English have been famous for doing that for generations, going back a couple thousand years. They've been famous for that. Look at Scotland. That's why in Braveheart, they talked about outlaw tunes played on outlaw pipes, because the certain bagpipes were not tuned to a certain frequency, and therefore they were outlawed, and songs written that were in any way trying to show nationalism for Scotland and Scottish people had to be outlawed. That's why here in the United States, if the Donald Trump and his whole entire agenda is make America great again. And by doing so, he wants to have free enterprise and all these things, and trade and equal trade around the world, and national pride in the United States of America. The progressives that are in charge call him evil for wanting to think about America first and Americans first. Think about that, whether you like that idea or not. And then they call it MAGA and have you believe it's a cult religion that is evil. What is evil about what they want? They want energy independence. They want the prices of everything to go down, the prices, the cost of living to go down. They want the prices of gasoline and oil and natural gas to go down by creating it ourselves, because we can here in the United States. And then they want to start charging other countries money for bringing their shit in here if they're charging us for money to bring shit into their country and sell it there. That's called free trade, equal free trade. But the progressives in this country, and yours as well, they don't want that. Why? Because they're done with you believing in countries. So if there's no countries, I agree with this, right? Let me explain this. And so that I won't trigger you. I'm going to trigger all of you now. So here's the thing. The progressives say they want to be in charge of a country. They want to be in charge of a country and have their office in their politics in that country, but they don't want there to be any country borders and people can live whatever they want to live anywhere in the world. I say that's a good idea. First thing we need to do is fire everybody in every government. All of them go away. You don't have any more power or say over the people, because if we don't have borders, we don't have a country, and we have no reason for the government. So let's give them what they want, people, and tell them you're fired. All you go home. There is no government because there is no borders because we're allowing people to come in from everywhere. So people can do just whatever. Oh, by the way, the whole defunding of the police, well, all of them need to go. The military, the FBI, the Mossad, the Scotland Yard, all of them go home. We no longer need any of you because there is no country. King and queen, done, you're out. Get the fuck out of the 10 Downing Street, get the fuck out of the castles. They don't belong to you anymore. They belong to the people. We're moving in. You're all fired. Go away. That's what you guys want. Let's give it to them. Tell them they're all fired and tell them to get out. Okay, because you'll see how quickly they're going to go, oh, no. Somebody's got to be in control to stop you guys from doing chaos. We're not the ones doing any chaos. We're all just trying to live here. Right? We'll go back to the barter system. We don't need money. We don't need their money that they're creating. Turn that off. If I got a pile of blankets that I made and you got a pile of meat and you're cold, I'll trade you for some food. That's how things worked on this earth. For the first million years, people were here before the governments took control. Everybody traded shit. The barter system will come back in. Not before everybody starts killing each other. Who cares? They're doing it now. Let's go down that road. Okay? Call their freaking bluff. Let's do it. Hail Mary. You guys are fired. First thing. Lawyers gone, judges gone, cops gone, military gone, and politicians definitely first. All governments. You're shut down. No more money. No more military. Bye-bye. Okay? Shut down. Quickly, people that are totalitarian systems that are in charge already, kings and queens around the world, they're going to go, let's invade everybody else. Because we still have our fiefdom, our kingdom. So they're going to go, oh, we can't do that. The Iranians will invade. The Russians will invade. Well, this is what you want. This is what you want. So let's give it to you. Now, all of a sudden, you don't want it. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Which is it? Okay. Everyone's afraid of that because they're telling you, without us, this whole thing is chaos. But you're creating the chaos, people. Okay. Do you see my point? So I'm sure I pissed everybody off now. If you subscribe to that religion and you're on either side of the aisle, you now are mad at me. Okay? Wherever you are on the planet, if you're a progressive or a conservative, you hate me now. That's what happens. You just know I'm your enemy. And I'm not, because I don't subscribe to that religion. Okay? At all. I don't pick any one of those sides because the side that I pick is not the physical side. It's not in the flesh. That is the side of war and violence. And that's all it is. That is the Kundalini energy. Okay. And then there's another entire energy, which is the feminine, which is the Kunda buffer energy, which is the female, nurturing, loving, caring energy that they hate. That's why they control women and have controlled women since the time of the devil ruling the earth, from the beginning through the middle and to the end of that time. The devil will rule the earth, which is already over. That's why things are changing on this earth. Because the time of the devil is done long ago. You just aren't aware of it yet. Because the insane asylum is being run by the inmates now. Okay? And they're up there going, no, we're the ones in charge. We always have. We're superior intellect because we come from a better stock than you. Because we're part of that Luciferian. I mean, we're not really aliens because there are no aliens. There's no such thing as aliens, but their gods are the Anunnaki. Their gods are Lucifer, and Lucifer was the person who came here in a spaceship. Ask them, look it up. Lucifer's the devil. What are you talking about? Satanism is the religion of evil. Really? Because 14% of the population of this earth is in fact evil, and we have 7.8 billion souls. The total number of evil people is 14% of that. The total number of people that are in the satanic religion worldwide, according to the Satanic Church, is 2 million. That's less than 0.1% of 7.8 billion. Even if it's 1/10, that would still be 70 million. So, or even if it's 7 million, there's only 2 million people. So the religion of evil is not Satanism. That's the religion of fake evil. Children who pretend they are of, well, hail Satan. Hail Satan. And that's, what do they do? Oh, we do whatever the Christians do, we do the opposite. We take their cross, turn it upside down. We take their star, turn it upside down. And the all the people in that religion over there say, do what thou wilt, but harm none. We just say, do what thou wilt. So their religion doesn't exist unless the Christian pantheon, the Western Judeo-Christian, and the Celtic religions exist, because they take all of their stuff and turn it upside down. The opposite of them is what we are. You don't think that they're smart enough to create their own religion? Do you see? That's like saying Wiccanism in the United States is separate from Christianity. It's not. They sing the Christian hymns now, and they just change the words. Christian hymn that goes back to the Hebrews of now we gather at the river. 40 years ago, the Wiccans were singing it as now we gather around the campfire. But it was that hymn with words changed. So they've evolved into Christianity light. The same way Satanism evolved into Hebrewism, Christianity, and Wiccanism light, Druidism light. They base their religion on those. So they have to acknowledge that those religions are good and holy and that there is a God, and then say, we're the opposite one. Then they try to convince you that it's equal. Their God is equal to your God, and they're sitting on two mountaintops playing chess with all of us down here. It's the only way that they can get this place to exist and say we have just as much power. So they have to convince you. So that's not the religion of evil. Religion of evil is everything that is going on in this reality. It has been usurped by evil people, and they believe that this place is all there is. They are desperate for it to be that way. Okay? They are desperate for it to be that way, to the point of saying all of that other stuff is fake. There is no definitive proof of any of that. This is just what it is. We only have one life. And when you die, you just move into oblivion. Nothing happens. We don't care what you believe, but there's no place you go. There is nothing else. Nothing exists. The earth is flat. Space doesn't exist. You can't fly up there. There are no aliens. There is nothing besides this right here. And all of that, if it were real, we would know about it, and we don't know about it. So it's just this. That's it. So the best thing we have is technology. And our technology hasn't changed one iota, which is weird, right? And all of it is based on, like the earth being flat, is based on something that some guy in the 1700s said that he was immune to and was able to observe, and him and his entire crew, but they couldn't duplicate it, and no one else in the crew would testify to the words he said, weirdly. There is no history from the rest of the crew saying and corroborating his story, by the way. He just wrote about it afterwards. So he was immune to it, and so he sat there on his ship and everyone was laughing at his whole crew. But the problem is, if his crew was not immune to the firmament and he couldn't go and find the firmament, he wouldn't be able to do that, because the crew would mutiny when he was like, no, I will take control and just know that we're going in the right direction. And they would have been like, they would have fell overboard. They all would have died, because they would have had to have turned, because that's what the firmament makes them do. So they all would have ran off the edge of the boat, and he'd have been by himself, not able to do anything, and would have died at sea, because he can't sail the ship by himself. But you can't ask that question, because the earth is flat. So you can't ask that question, because all the rest of it's just a lie. And they're covering it up because they would have to change history books. I'm like, are you serious? So the biggest cover up in the existence of the humankind they're doing, and they're continuing to propagate that over and over and over and over, because they'll have to change a book. Yet every other day there's some new thing that's found where they have to change all the history books. Like, for instance, the head that they had on the T-Rex for all of time until 2012, when they discovered it was the wrong head. They had to change all history books on this entire earth. Why would they not continue to lie about that too? Because they cost them a lot of money to change history books. Cost them just the same amount of money to change those history books about the wrong head being on the wrong dinosaur than it would to go, well, the Earth's not flat. Or the other way around. Well, the Earth's actually really flat. So you have this entire organization that's pretending the Earth's not flat because they'll have to change the history books and say the Earth is in fact flat. But yet every other day on this Earth, they're discovering something they were wrong about in all of history and have to change the history books in every country. And they just give a new updated edition of the history books at the end of every year and collect all those books and recycle them all the time. All the time. But the one thing about the Earth being flat, they're not going to pay for that. So they just propagate and make movies and show it to people. Oh, the Earth, they never flew to space. The whole thing was filmed on location and it was just a film. It was just a movie and all of it was faked. They spend trillions of dollars propagating a fake because they don't want to spend $1 million to change the history book. That's the theory. Trillions of dollars in the past 100 years propagating a lie because they don't want to spend $1 million to change the books. That's what the entire history of flat Earth is based on. They're lying about all of it and covering it up. We never went to the moon. It's very possible the United States didn't go to the moon the first time they said they went to the moon because they were in a race against Russia to get there first. That's a good possibility. I think after that, they went back. I've looked it up. But I think maybe the first time when they were trying to get everybody to believe that, they might have filmed that one. I might even give you that because they were trying to convince the world that they got there ahead of the Russians so they could claim the and then later snuck back up there and put the flag up when they actually got there. That's very possible and far more likely than that all of it is fake and that so they launched the space shuttle up and kill people blowing it up to cover it up still. So they got them up there and they burned up on a re-entry, but that couldn't have happened. So they were just up in the air and they just burned up while they were just flying around up there because they didn't want to change the history book. So they spent $100 billion to make a machine to fly them up into the air. And then something malfunctioned and they burned it up and they lied and said, well, that's because they went to space and came back. Right? So they're spending all that money. To what end? Oh, because we're propagating it so we get rich. Oh, okay. So that's how they're generating all the deep state money. To do what? What are they doing with all this money that they're going? Because if the Earth is flat, right? I know I'm ranting, but think about this, people. None of this passes the smell test of a child over the age of 10. None of it. Okay? None of it. Unless you literally have a mindset of an 11-year-old child, then you might buy it. And that's where they want you. That's where they want you. Look up what the IQ test is based on, and don't find the IQ test. Well, it's based on intelligence quotient is based on a bunch of questions that determine. Look up the original test that was created by the original scientist and what his findings were. That became what the IQ test is. That the average person has an IQ of between 100 and 110. And that means that mentally, maturity level, you're 11 years of age. On average. 11. You don't know it, but that's what them controlling that pine cone, the pineal gland, that the Anunnaki are doing. Keeping you dumbed down as a child, simple childlike mind, and then in fear, running away from God. God's angry. We have to kill one of our daughters after we rape her. Yeah, I'll do that part. So we have to sacrifice one of our young girls to appease God so God will make it rain because it hasn't rained in 40 days or 40 nights. Because something happened on the other side of the planet and it changed the weather and atmosphere and it came over where you're at and there was drought. But you're not aware of that because you're a child and you don't. Now we have weathermen that'll tell you about that. And then the other way around, like what happened here in the United States a month and a half ago, up until about a month ago, where we had the worst snowstorm in history here not in history, but close to it, because we had this atmospheric river that blew out from the North Pole because there was a high pressure system that went up to the north and literally pressed down, because the high pressure system does that. That's why it's called a high pressure system. Pressed down with warm air, and that pushed the stuff globally, and this big bubble of cold air spilled out and washed over Canada and the United States of America, and then flew over and went around the world and went over China and Russia and Europe. And so we had this incredible amount of snow this winter. And it had nothing to do with a god, had to do with an atmospheric event that happens every now and then. And the scientists on television told about it. But if you didn't have any of those meteorologists, and we didn't have the technology to know about that with satellites that are flying around in space, going around a globe that is up there, by the way, we wouldn't know about these things, and we wouldn't know why, and we would just call it the year of the cold winter. What do you think they called the ice ages that happened? They had no idea it was an ice age. They just knew it got really cold, and they all moved south. That's all. Okay, so you see my point. So you have your determination of how you perceive reality determines not just your reality, but the collective reality of the collective consciousness. So if enough of you believe a thing, it'll happen. This is why even Jesus said that if you had literally the size of a mustard seed amount of faith, you could literally move a mountain. Literally, not figuratively. He even said the words literally move a mountain. Because if you actually realize what's going on here, you would not allow them to have control over you, because they can't control you. Second, you start thinking for yourself is when they lose control over you. So they have to beat you into submission as fast as they can to get you back under their control. And if they can't control you, they'll ruin everything about your life and take away everything that you have and make life miserable for you, and then punish you and anybody else who thinks like you, to get you to shut up. That's what they do. Why would they do that if it were true what they're saying? They wouldn't need to. They would just say, prove it. There's no way you can prove that, so prove it. When they know there's no way for you to prove it, they say those things. They wouldn't have to. So if the world is exactly the way they claim, they wouldn't have to do anything, and they would encourage you to look, because they know that the outcome would be 100% you would find what they're telling you to be true. But since they're not doing that, that means that they're controlling it. Why? Because they don't want you to know what they know. Oh, no, we can't have you thinking for yourself. You're going to make the wrong determination. Because why? Because they're claiming that they're superior to you and that they know better, and that you're not smart enough to know for yourself. Therefore, they have to be the ones telling you and be in control, because you're going to get the wrong idea. How do they know that? Because we know the right idea. Just trust me. I know the right idea. That's the problem with that. How about no? How about we need to find out for ourselves? Well, then you're going to hurt yourselves. Then what do you care? Right? What do they care? Oh, no, somebody asked you. Because, see, again, they're telling you you're stupid. That's what they're telling you. You're not intelligent. You're not smart. You're not as smart as we are. We know the truth. You don't know it. You can't know it because you're not smart. So you have to trust that what I'm telling you is the truth. That's what they're saying to you. People like me are saying the opposite. Don't believe me. Assume I'm lying to you and look it up for yourself. That should tell you something about who's got what mindset going on. I want you to think for yourself and ask questions and look it up. They want you to shut up, sit down, and do what I tell you to do. That should tell you something about the motivation behind what they're doing and why. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of you. You're going to get the wrong idea because you're going to learn shit on your own. That's what I was told when I was in school by teachers. Teacher, I'm tired of waiting for little Jimmy and Johnny over there who don't understand what 1 + 1 is, and we're in the 12th grade. Do you think I can go ahead in the book and do? No, don't you do that. Don't you do that. You're going to do it wrong, and you're not going to know you're doing it wrong. They give you examples, and they have you correct your papers, and all of that's in the book. I see that. So if I read, which is what you have me do, the explanation of what I'm supposed to do, and then they show me how to check my work, and I do exactly everything that's in the book, which is what you have us do, right out of the book, and you have us read what it says in the book, and then you have us do the math problem that's in the book and correct it by what's in the book. I don't really need you, teacher, because the book is teaching me all of that. But what you're saying is that I can't understand what's going on in here unless you explain this to me. So the teacher's saying, you're stupid. I have to tell you how to read that book. But it's self-explanatory. When you have us read the book, you're not telling me anything that's not in the book. You're telling me what's in the book, and I'm reading what's in the book. So what do I need you for? See, I couldn't say that out loud because then they get mad and send me to the office. Now I'm talking out of turn. I'm no longer complying. I'm disrupting the class, and I have to be stifled because I'm thinking for myself, willing to do work on my own, confident enough in my abilities that I can follow the instructions that are laid down in the book and that I'll be able to figure things out. Can't have somebody doing that on their own. That is literally what your indoctrination is when you're in any school system on this planet. So I go ahead and do it on my own and don't tell the teacher about it. And then to test it, I double check and triple check and learn to double check to make sure I'm right so that when I turn in the homework that I did 3 months ago, I give it to the teacher and don't tell the teacher that I didn't do it last night. Do you see? And the teacher says, you did really good. See, it's a good thing I was teaching you. You're right. As I polish the teacher's ego so that they will leave me alone. And then I go ahead and then I go down to the libraries and find the next book, the next book, the next book. You can look that stuff up. And I do it outside from the library. So I don't have the librarian informing on me to the communist teacher saying, he's in here reading that other stuff. Because then they're going to send me down the hall to the person who's going to stifle me again. I learned that very young. So I go to outside places and look them up in these things that we called libraries. Now you have a smartphone that can do the same thing. And I went ahead and learned all this shit on my own. And then I had all kinds of free time to do other things. So I was doing college work. By the time I was in 10th grade, I was already doing college work. So then I got tired of waiting and wanted to go to college. So then I decided to take the test to get out of high school so I could go directly into college because I didn't want to wait the next 2 and 3 years before I graduated to get into college. And then they all said I was stupid, didn't know what I was doing, and I was going to fail the test. And I went to the school. I went one day, asked the teacher, this is all I need to know is how to do the algebra because I didn't learn algebra. When are you going to teach that? The teacher was convinced that I was going to fail the test utterly. I didn't come back until that one day, learned the algebra, what I needed, because I had to wait for the teacher, and I looked it up myself anyways when I came back to see if there was anything I didn't know, sat through that class, left again, came back for the test. She laughed at me, told me I was going to utterly fail. I finished before everyone else, and I got 100% because I spent my time making sure that I knew what I needed to know to pass the test. She told me I got lucky. Don't keep doing that in life, son, because if you do that in life, you're going to fail. I ignored what that teacher told me, continued doing that in life, and I learned more by self-educating myself than I ever learned by going to their institutions. That is why I'm on an app to learn 23 languages. I'm actually learning 25 now languages, and I'm teaching myself on that app. Duolingo, it's free. I don't pay for it either. You can pay so that you don't make any mistakes, and when you do, they don't count against you. I don't do that on purpose because practicing when you make the mistakes helps you to get better at it. So instead of paying them money so that I'm not very good at it, because every single person that I know that pays that, they're like, I've been doing Duolingo for 2 years and I'm still not fluent in that language. And I do it every day. Do you pay for it? Yes. Okay. So every mistake that you're not learning from your mistakes, you're not practicing. So you're just blowing through that stuff. You're never going to be fluent in any language because you're not actually practicing your language, you're trying to memorize it. So you can't talk it very well. My sister says, I have a hard time. I said, because that's why they have conversational language classes, because you don't have somebody that you're talking to in that language. It takes you to force yourself to say that stuff out loud so that you build up that repetitiveness of translating that really quickly in your brain. That's the hardest part. So if you're not going to a classroom setting where they're forcing you, I remember when I was taking Spanish as a kid, you go to the classroom, when you're in advanced Spanish, they don't even speak English when you walk in there anymore. They're forcing you to have to speak that language. That forces your brain to figure it out faster. Eckhart Tolle just talked about this on one of the posts that he posted 2 weeks ago, where he went to Germany. He was born in Germany, and he spoke German when he was a kid. Then he moved away, and he didn't speak German forever. So he went back to Germany, and he was touring in Germany, and they wanted him to speak in German. And he said, I haven't spoke Germany in 60 years. I don't think that I can do it. So the first day he was standing there talking or sitting there talking and had a translator translating. And he says, and I realized the translator wasn't translating my words exactly accurate the way that I would have translated them. But I didn't, I thought maybe I was still not, picking up the language as well as I should. So I didn't say anything. But the second day, they said, well, listen, why don't you, because you're German and you were born here, why don't you come out and maybe say a few things in German and then start up again in English and have the translator translate for you? And he said, okay, I'll do that. And I don't know how long I'll go, but I'll explain, in German that I'm not going to speak German. They said, okay, yeah, just do that in a couple words and then we can go on. He said he started talking in German to tell them that he couldn't do it in German because he hadn't spoke German since he was a kid, and none of it was coming back to him. And he apologized, and then he realized that he was talking in German, and 10 minutes went by, and it all came back to him. And he thought to himself, wait a minute, I'm still speaking German. So he continued and did the entire time, 2 hours or 3 hours that he was talking to the crowd in German. And he said, I hadn't spoken it in all those years, but it came back to me once I was forced. In the beginning, it was hard for me to put the words together. And the more I was doing it, the more they started to flow. I do that when I'm doing, because I do multiple languages, and they tell you, don't ever learn more than one language at a time. You'll confuse yourself and you'll never get it right. You'll lose. Yeah, that might be true to most people. It's not for me. But it does take me a few minutes when I first start to tune into that language. That is a different language than, say, if I'm doing Spanish for half an hour and then I decide to do Irish. At first, Irish is super hard because I was just doing Spanish and my brain was going from English to Spanish. And at first, it's really hard. But after a few minutes, all of a sudden, I forget my brain isn't locked on Spanish and it's locked onto Irish, and I'm able to do it. But it takes me a little bit to get going. But once you start doing it, it becomes easier because your brain switches. There's actually a science behind that when it has to do with language. And people don't realize that they do it all the time with dialects. That a dialect from a language, like those of you who are over in Australia, and you speak a different language over there, even though it's English, it's a different version of it, a different dialect. So you have different words for different things that you say than I say here in America, and that people in England say completely different. The people in India say completely different, even though we're all speaking the same language. Irish people in Ireland, Peter is in one place in Ireland, and there's other people that come in the audience here that are in different regions of Ireland, and they have completely different ways of speaking. Okay. So, and they joke about that, like the people in the east of Ireland joke about the people in the west, that nobody understands them. Not even they don't even understand themselves, because the people in the west of Ireland are a completely different dialect. Same thing here I'm on the west coast of the United States, and we have a different dialect out here than they do in the south and they do in the east. They talk differently. But I still understand them. And for those of us who can speak in these different dialects, like someone who speaks, say, proper American English, what they would call American slang in England, and then people who talk Ebonic English, African-American version, and that they speak with a southern accent, a southern drawl from Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, and that area, Tennessee. with a drawl from down there. And it's a completely different dialect of English where they make up their own words. And that's what they do in Australia and here in America and wherever you are regionally. Canada, same thing. You make up your own words that regionally fit. Like we say hella. Like, dude, you hella scared me. That's definitely a West Coast America. It started in the Bay Area, but everybody wherever they're at claims that it started there. But if you go back far enough, it was in the Bay Area first. And it's synonymous with the Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area. That we say that there. In fact, when the Warriors won the championship for the first time, people made a big deal of saying hella on national television. And you guys here say hella. Now it's a regionally for the West Coast of the United States, and it's going to eventually take over. People are going to say it. I've seen people on television saying it on TV shows. I'm like, I remember I played World of Warcraft, and about 4 years ago, I was playing the game, and I was in one of the cities. And it was at night and I was fishing, doing this daily fishing quest. And there was a girl next to me playing the game, fishing as well. And she started talking to me and said, how do I know when I've caught this stupid? Because you're supposed to catch a hand. This woman got her hand bit off and there's a ring on it. You're supposed to catch the hand or the fish that has the hand in its belly and then get the ring and take it back so they can take the hand and reattach it and keep the ring to the person. So you're trying to do this. I know it sounds gruesome, but and she says, I've been sitting here fishing for like an hour and I'm hella tired of doing this. And I can't. And I said, you just said hella. And she says to me, because we're typing to each other as we're fishing, we're sitting there typing back and forth to each other so we can see it on the screen, talking to one another. Or if we looked at each other, we could see the little bubble over our heads when we'd say things. And she goes, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm from the, Northern California. And I said, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. And we say hella there. She's like, oh my God, where are you at? And I told her I'm in Sacramento. She goes, oh my God, I'm in Sacramento too. So it turns out we were playing the video game at the same time on a server that wasn't a West Coast server. And we had both ended up in the same city, sitting next to each other, playing a video game. And we're both literally less than 5 miles from each other and grew up out here in the West Coast. And because she said hella, I questioned that and we started laughing about it and then found out that we're literally from the same region. And we say that, and because I've noticed that she said that. You guys know what I'm talking about because there's something that you guys say that if you were Australian, you came to America and another Australian said at first you would understand the accent. And you would go, wait, you from Australia? That's what happened. You go, yeah, and then where? And you could tell regionally by how they speak. You know those things. And your brain switches gears from the way you speak regionally and as a country. And then when you go to some other place and you can translate what they're saying into what you know, well, that's no different than a language. The difference is you have a common base root language, but you're using other words that mean different things. And so language barrier is just more words that are separate that mean different things or said a different way. That's all. Your brain figures it out the more it's repetitive. The purpose of all of that, me telling you that, is getting back to what Raw is talking about. When it comes to, and what we were talking about, when it comes to your mindset, your focus determines your reality. Your focus on a language determines how quickly you pick up that language. Your focus on this place determines the outcome of this place for you. So if you're focused on negative, you're going to only see negative and you're only going to have negative things happening to you and around you at all times. If you're focused on the positive, you're going to have more positive things happening to you and around you at all times. So your perception of what's happening either to you or for you determines your reality. So your reality is always determined by your focus and your mindset. You have to be aware of that. That's the first step in avoiding a trap, knowing its existence. So if you're aware of that, you also have to be aware of everything that is happening, everything you eat, everything you listen to, everything you read, everything you watch, everything you look up on the internet, everything you do is creating your reality. They're aware of it and they control the algorithms that are pushing you in directions that are trying to keep you from thinking for yourself, from becoming self-aware, from becoming a better person. They're aware of that. Those algorithms are designed to focus your attention away from self-awareness, spirituality, away from critical thinking, thinking for yourself, away from asking questions, and they're focusing you on money, power, fame, clicks, likes, control, all of these things. That's what all these platforms are designed to do. If you're not aware of that, then you're blindly being led by them. That's the system. That's what, when we were talking about that before, where I said that Tom McDonald talked about that. He literally wrote a song about that. This is what we're trying to show you. This is what Raw's trying to talk about. And this is what those of us who are awake, not woke, are trying to tell you. Literally, all of these things determine your reality, and how you perceive yourself, how you eat controls the energy that is going into your body, the energy that you have in your mind, in your soul, and your spirit, all of this. So if you eat crap, you become crap. You are what you eat. So if you eat junk and low vibrational food, you're going to stay low vibrational, and it's going to shut down your third eye. If you eat very good food, organic food, and high vibrational food, that's going to expand your consciousness. We're able to do today, without drugs, what it took everyone in the 60s to expand their consciousness with by only drugs, because they were so controlled 60 years ago, they could not attain a level of awareness that we can attain now without it, because of the changes in our lifestyle. So when you have people like Aaron Rodgers, let's go all the way back to him now, who are doing, or any of you out there who are doing psychedelics, smoking pot, high in THC, doing DMT, ayahuasca, any of those psychedelics, and you're not doing it just to get a trip, a psilocybin, mushrooms. If you're doing it not just to get it, I just want to trip out, man, because then you're just trying to escape the matrix for a minute and go into a different one. And then you don't care. You're not doing it to expand your consciousness. If you're trying to expand your consciousness, it becomes a solace, not a catalyst. It becomes a mechanism that allows you to expand your consciousness and ask questions, and then have an event, have an experience that is more open. They will tell you and laugh at you and go, that's a lie, and it's not real, and it's just the drug, and you're a crazy lunatic. I can't believe you fell for that. And they want to embarrass you, stifle you, control you, and get you away from that as fast as they possibly can. Why? It's not good for you. It's bad. It's killing you. That's why they tell you that over here in California, they tell you that marijuana, they legalized it. They tell you marijuana causes cancer. There is not one case on this earth that they can cite where marijuana caused cancer. However, there are millions of cases that marijuana cured cancer that they don't want you to know about. You can look it up. That's just marijuana. That's just the THC in marijuana. Okay? But they'll tell you, effectively in the state of California, marijuana causes cancer. They have that listed. And that the smoke from marijuana in the air is toxic. But yet they want it legalized because they want the revenue. You see, well, cigarette smoking is worse for you. That causes cancer. There are hundreds of billions of cases in the last 75 to 100 years that have proven worldwide that causes about 50 different kinds of cancer. But yet they don't tell you that, and they want you to smoke those cigarettes. Why? Because they want to make money off of it. But marijuana, where there is no cases anywhere, and if they come up with one, it'll be a lie, and someone will disprove it quickly, but they don't have it. There is nothing. I've looked it up because they keep claiming it. What case are you basing this on? Shut up. We're the authorities here. Do you understand? Do you stand under me? Do you see? So they do that with everything. You do that with everything, whether it's good for you or bad for you. Because for your own good, you can't do that because you're not smart enough to know to get it right. And that's what they do with everything. Okay, I'm gonna go. It's 5:30. I'm gonna go, but we'll finish I'll have to figure out where we are and write it down, what question that we're on. I don't even know how many questions are in this session because I didn't actually listen to it ahead of time. So I'll go back and find out where we are and pick up there and then get the next one ready to go for next week. But think about this stuff. Don't believe a word I've said to you. Think I'm lying to you. Believe I've made all of this up and I'm lying to you, and look it all up for yourself. Ask questions. Look it up. Because what will happen is you're going to start posing questions, and then you're going to answer some, and those are going to pose more questions. Questioning and learning to read and looking things up for yourself. But you have to be careful where you're looking things up too, because if you're using your smartphone and you're Googling shit, you're going to get the answers they want you to have most of the time. And that's why I talk about that and try to show you examples of that. Like when I talk about spirituality in these religions, look up any religion, look up the creation story for any religion, and they'll tell you the creation myth for that so-called religion is, because Google is run by secularists. And it's run by the agenda of the Anunnaki, which is dumb you down, keep you 11 mentally, and keep you buying into this place only. So that you want money, power, fame. We got it, we control it, and we'll give it to you for a price. That's what they're selling you. The second you do it without them, they try to get control of you as soon as they can. Why? Because they need to make money off of you. They can't have you making as much money as they make, because you might then take their control. That's why they don't teach you any of that stuff. You have to look for it. If you want to make money in this world, look up how to do it. Learn that. Well, I'll just go on TikTok and become an influencer. Everybody wants to be an influencer on TikTok. In America, there's 150 million people in America that are on TikTok. Out of all of those, how many do you think are wanting to be the most successful influencer on there? Probably 75% of them, and the other 25%, you're just on there for entertainment purposes. The other 75%, they want to be the king of TikTok. And the only king of TikTok is the Chinese Communist Party in China. Okay? Same thing with YouTube. Everybody, I want to be a YouTube influencer. Yeah, YouTube takes 90% of everything made on there. So if you want to make $1 million, you got to make $10 million so that Google gets 9 million and you get 1. Do you see? They'll let you be on their platform, but you got to give them the lion's share of the cut. They don't give it to you. You have to give it to them. It's our platform. So the truth is, this is why I say to everybody, if you want to get rich quick scheme, the best way to get rich quick is to invent a get rich quick scheme and sell it to other people. That's your get rich quick scheme. Invent one that could work, put a disclaimer up saying this is not going to work for everybody, but if you do all of this work, you could make this kind of money. That's all you got to do, and sell it to everybody. Marketing is more key to that get rich quick ideology than the get rich quick scheme is. Do you understand that? That's why when you go on these sites, you can Google these or go onto any site and look these up, how to make money quickly from home. You're going to find that there's going to be a guy or a woman who's going to tell you all these different devices and these AI and apps that you can use to make all kinds of money. Go to their site and you're going to find out that's only one infomercial that they're selling, and that what they do is they have 100 of those. And there's 100 different ways to make money that they're selling you. And every single person that you find is going to be the exact same way. So that means they work for those companies that own those apps, and they're making commercials for those people, and they're getting paid that way. They have a get rich quick scheme they're selling you on. So they want you to do this before this gets taken down quickly and you can get rich. That's their get rich quick scheme, is you doing that, not what they're doing. What they're doing is making 100 different get rich quick schemes. And they're getting paid by the companies to sell their product. And then there's people that are just blatant, and you go on there and they're selling products. They're not telling you how to get rich quick. They're like, buy these mushrooms, buy this drink case, buy this. And that's what they're doing. They are people who sell products. So if you want to make money, sell products like them. Do you see? Don't make the product they're selling you and showing you how to make, because they're telling everybody to do that. So there's a million of you out there that are trying to do that. That's not what they're doing. They're telling you how to do that. And then they're telling you another 100 ways to make money. Well, I'll just do all of those. So is the other 100 million people that are out there trying to find out how to make money. So therefore, you have super competition and no one's going to make money. But if you look into it and you get all those apps, they make money off of you going and getting the apps. And that's because they're working for that company. And the apps make all kinds of money. And you may or may not make some chump change. Do you see? So if you want to get rich quick, you come up with a get rich quick scheme and sell that to everybody. That's how you'll get rich quick. Those people may or may not get rich, and it's not your fault because you put a disclaimer up there saying you may or may not get rich. Can't guarantee anything. All outcomes are completely up to each individual, and that you could, if you do the due diligence, make money at this. And as soon as you start making money and you have some people, then you pay people because you're making money. Then you pay actors to say they did it and made all kinds of money. And eventually somebody investigates you and finds out that those people didn't really make money, and then they make you stop. You've already made a bunch of money. They fine you for, $100 million. You made $1 billion. You pay the fine, and then you make another one that might work, or you just retire and don't do it. That's what the guys did from the get rich quick schemes throughout time. There, they made all kinds of money, hired actors to say they made all kinds of money. They got investigated, paid the fine, took all their stuff down, and walked away with $1 billion on a scheme that never worked. But they sold it to half the population who were trying to do it. Look it up. All right, guys. I love you guys. I will see you guys next week. I love you guys. Have a great night. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show.